Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reconnected on Thursday nights. Welcoming back this time for only the second time, Chris Stachiw, the one that made enemies of everybody in the chat last time.
Wait, just throw me under the bus already?
Well, no,
it was my job to throw myself under the bus, to tell everybody I hate physical media and I don't know why I'm here.
I'm allowing you to lift the bus off.
Oh no, I bus right on top. Just park that fucker on top of me, please. Yes, I am here. We've spent a good portion of the last 6 months since I was here talking, recording every day. Every day.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm glad to have him back. And last time he was here, yeah, there were some salty comments. And Chris of
saltsters.
Some learning some physical media aspects since then.
Again, I'll reiterate. I have 8 binders full of DVDs downstairs. I just didn't buy Blu-rays. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought this was about gatekeeping. And also, by the way, I'd like to point out that the people in your comments, I'd like to see a creative take on my last name. There isn't one yet. So, sorry, Gesundheit, but not creative. I've heard them all at this point. Literally. I've lived in my skin for 34 years. You think you're creative? Get up here is what I'm saying. So like I said, I'm here to have fun. We're here for a good time. I came for the Blu-rays and I'm staying for the discussion.
Chris is here because we are doing an episode of Film Foundations live tonight after our announcements, and it'll be a good one. We are talking about Batman films tonight, not one that we've talked about in quite some time on here. Man, what's been going on, Chris?
Oh, since last time we talked, I had a birthday. Went to LA for a podcast
last time
thing.
We talked, that was like 4 hours ago.
Yeah, I'm talking about since you and I talked in front of your audience.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah, went to a podcast con for podcasters in LA. Went to Phoenix for my birthday. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a whirlwind last couple months. Been very busy, especially working with you. You and I have been putting in a lot of time on Film Foundations. We're up to like 30 episodes recorded, so.
Which, if you are keeping track of how often those are coming out, we're basically done like throughout the rest of this year already.
Literally, we have everything scheduled essentially through like the end of November. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point out to Horror Guy 1983 in the comments about DVD binders. Hey, bro. Ain't nobody got enough room to store thousands of DVDs anywhere. And if you've got a TARDIS hiding in your basement, lucky you.
I mean...
I know, but that's a whole room of your house, man. Like, that's my point. I had my whole wall full, and then I was like, I can't do this anymore. Just need to start putting them in binders. Like,
I mean, I literally have stacks in places that stacks should not exist.
And here's the other thing. It doesn't change the fact that neither one of us watch our physical media, so... Binders, DVD cases, steelbooks, still not being watched because it's not part of the programming.
At least 2.5 this week on physical media.
2.5? What was the half? What was the half?
I'll let everybody know when I finish it next week.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, Speaking of that,
you sent me some physical. You sent me some physical media. Okay, actually,
let's do pickups first, then.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what you wanted to do first, so you sent me Blu-rays.
I did.
In the mail.
I did
for my birthday.
I did.
It's kind of my thing. I'll leave yours for the end, though. The Tunnel, which I haven't watched any of these. They're still in their packaging, as you can see. Yeah, well, because I'm not covering it on my show, so I don't have time to watch it. Out in the Ring, which is about wrestling, which I've been watching a lot of wrestling in the last 6 months, that's for sure. And then Kinzada, which what does it say here? Physical media expert Ryan Farrell and film professor Dr. Will Dotson. Well, at least they didn't say just some dude.
I mean, it might have been a little more accurate.
No, come on. There aren't people here because you're just some guy who spouts about physical media. You are a physical media expert. Come on.
Well, speaking of spouting, let's go with some pickups. We're talking about Batman tonight, so I had to highlight this. I just got in Batman The Long Halloween 4K. I've not seen this yet. One that I want to watch soon. I've heard okay things about it, but I really like this comic. Really
Yeah, I was about to
eager
say same
see
thing.
how they do that.
Comics amazing.
I've got a couple trades in the works. I've got a couple people that are like paying off some things that I'm sending them. So they sent me a couple small care package. I got the first door from Third Window. This is also it's got door 2 on there, but I've got that one from TerraVision. And then Eating Miss Campbell. This is one that is in from Refuse Films over in the UK. This one is signed and numbered by the director. Nice. And then Severin just recently put out Lola, and whoever watched this didn't want it anymore, and I've heard amazing things about this, so I wanted to pick this up. I've heard this is like genuinely one of the best films from the last few years, and eager to see it. It's supposed to be great. The screenshots from this look like just a remarkably shot film. And then the other one, I was late to getting this one, and so somebody traded their second pickup of this. They had 2 just in case one of them got damaged. The Paprika 4K Steelbook. And this thing is colorful beyond belief. Like, that is that's really nice.
So really like physical media, you and I are similar. You have a lot of physical media. I have a lot of books.
Yeah.
It's like that same thing where it's like, I haven't read a single book this year. I read 250 books last 2 years. So now they're just sitting, occupying space somewhere. So, but you, I mean, I know you watch stuff every week. I mean, I do too. It's just not everything is out on physical media right now in terms of the way that you want to watch it, obviously.
Well, that, and you've got different missions, some of the stuff that you want to watch. I mean, you've got the Bollywood Cinema Club, which most of that stuff is not on physical media. Stuff that you
streaming only, pretty much.
Stuff you cover on CultureCast, and with Mr. Mike White, a lot of that is not on physical media.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's the thing I love about Mike's show, the projection booth, is he covers stuff that, like, I'm not even sure if people know how to get it other than Mike, literally. Right. So, which is fun in its own right, and that's definitely an exciting thing that I appreciate about working with you and working with a lot of other collaborators. Is everybody pushes me to watch and see other things that I like. Right. This month on the CultureCast, we're doing Francis Ferber films, which I had never seen. So just watched The Man with One Red Shoe with Tom Hanks, which was fine. The original was pretty good too. So yeah, not everything is, my mission statement's a little bit different.
We are trying to cover some of those things that a lot of people don't watch. And like on Bollywood Cinema Club, you and I recorded one, last November, and it won't even go up till
2026. 2026, bro. Like, I'm just to the beginning of 2023's recordings. because doing for my birthday, we did all Indian cinema on the CultureCast in April, and I posted all of those episodes in the Bollywood Cinema Club. So I had like 4 weeks that I was just like, I don't have to do anything, just repost it. So it's probably even further in the distance. Yeah. With Film Foundations, we're kind of in the same boat. It's like, how much further ahead do we want to get here?
Right.
Because, like, oh my God. Remember when we were talking about Batman movies in 2024 and 2026 when we're airing the episode? Like, at this point, the episode part of this will come out literally in 2025, which is going to be a gas for anybody listening to it 6 to 8 months in the future.
Well, on that note, before we go into watches, let's talk about Film Foundations a little bit. Since it's now out, and before we were just kind of hinting about it, Film Foundations have been up for 2 weeks. We've got 2 official episodes out, and then we've got our episode 0 that explains it. I want to know, what's your like elevator pitch for what Film Foundations is?
Well, first off, good comment. Heather Drain is amazing. So that's incontrovertible truth. The elevator pitch for Film Foundations. We are trying to set a better example for film watchers, film goers, and film critics, and, whatever you want to call film podcasters, film content creators, because in your approximation and in my approximation, there's a fair amount of gatekeeping and not gatekeeping intentionally so much as just unintentional gatekeeping. I mean, you and I have been in plenty of conversations where, I've never seen X. And I mean, not dragging anybody in the comments, because I totally understand where anybody would be coming from. Because again, some of these movies, if I say something like, I hadn't seen Mad Max until Monday, some people are going to be like, what? And it's like, it never, it never hit that point for me where I wanted to watch it. So in our mind, doing Film Foundations is bringing that conversation to the front of how do you have a conversation about film without making it seem like you're not able to tell people what to watch without sounding like a dickhead. And that's what we're trying to do, is take that barrier of entry away from the film discussion, because at the end of the day, we want more people to watch film, and having gatekeeping and barriers to entry is not going to help an industry that's struggling, because the film industry is struggling, folks. I mean, I've been to the movie theaters. There's nobody going to the movie theaters. If anything, people are probably buying more physical media at this point, I've got to assume, because people are going to the theaters to see The Phantom Menace, a movie that people reviled when it came out. And then this past weekend, it made buku bucks. So that's kind of my thinking with Film Foundations, at least when you pitched it to me, was trying to do a better job at removing the barriers to entry for talking about film and making people more comfortable to say, I've never seen this before. Tell me more about it. So that's the other thing. On the Indie Vampires episode, we stayed straight at the beginning, like, we aren't experts here. We're here to learn just like the rest of you. And that's putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, especially as a content creator, because there are plenty of content creators that are, I got to know everything. And if I don't know things, then we're not doing that here. We want people to feel more comfortable having discussions about film.
And that's happened on a lot of the episodes. There's a lot of the episodes that are really interesting because of that. And some of the subjects that we've done so far, I can't wait for people to see them. Next week, we'll give a little preview of this. Next week's episode is on the Scream franchise.
Yes.
And these first couple weeks are a little horror heavy. It was not planned like that. It just kind of happened that way. But we are going all over the place with genres, with actors, with directors, with the way that we're looking at all of these are a little bit surface level, and so it's more of like a come on in, the water's fine discussion, rather than let's dig deep into one movie and give you everything about it, so that way you don't even feel like you have to watch it. It's mostly focused on here's a little bit about all of it.
And that's the other thing. We're not sitting time and spending time plot regurging or any of that. We're, like you said, literally 1,000-yard, maybe not 1,000, 100-yard view type thing. So no, I mean, it's been the most fun I've had in a very long time podcasting. I think I mentioned it to you, but I'll share it here because, again, I don't think enough people talk about it, but doing podcasting can be a very lonely thing to do, especially once you're done recording. You got to do all the editing and stuff. And so it's really nice to be doing a video thing with someone else that I work with like consistently, and because I haven't done that in a very long time, because it's hard to find people to work with consistently in this world. So I have enjoyed it immensely. And what are we, 5 recordings in this month of 25 scheduled? So we'll just get another year's worth of content cranked out for you guys, and then we'll just do it again in June and July, and then we'll have like infinite amounts of episodes until the end of time. Is what it's going to feel like at this point. So
I swear, like, September's going to roll around and we'll be like, let's just take a year off. And then we'll come back to it.
I mean, again, like, we wouldn't be doing nothing in that year, but we wouldn't be recording every other day. Because I think this week we've recorded once, but last week we recorded like 4 times or something. It's, some people record, they do a monthly podcast, which means they record 12 times a year. Like, we're past that and then some. Thank you, by the way, for the compliment, because that is something that I tend to have in bucket loads is enthusiasm. And I'm not saying I'm a moron, but my enthusiasm somehow can get in the way of my intellect sometimes. Who doesn't like to have a good time, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, I love Film Foundations because it's fun. We get to have fun doing it. And that's not always the case with everything I've worked on. Like, some things I do and I'm not having a good time, but Film Foundations, we have a good time, and I think you'll have a good time too.
Well said. Let's get into what we've been watching recently. Anything you want to shout out, highlight a little bit?
That I have been watching recently. Well, since I haven't been on here in a while, I'll just mention a couple things I've seen that stand out to me. Fallout, the TV show, pretty good. I didn't see Oppenheimer, So I saw the other Nolan brothers take on nuclear war and apocalypses and bombs. I would say if you've never played the video games, check out the show. I would say if you've played the video games, check out the show. I enjoyed it a lot. I went and saw The Mummy, 1999 in theaters for my birthday, which was, I know people don't like it or people will drag it, but here's a hot take, okay? I don't know if it's a hot take, really. The Mummy 1 and the Mummy and The Mummy Returns have aged so much better in light of those really disappointing Indiana Jones movies coming out.
I would
like they're like the best example of Indiana Jones done right by somebody else. I mean, Stephen Sommers is kind of, look, I love Van Helsing. Unfortunately, I find that to be an entertaining movie. I know that's, again, unpopular opinion.
It's a fun one.
It's a fun movie. But I when I was watching The Mummy, all I could think was, my God, look at how they did Indiana Jones, but without Indiana Jones. And like somehow they took the idea of Indiana Jones and did more with it too. So, I mean, obviously all based off of pulp serials from the 40s and 50s. So they're all drawing inspiration from the same place, obviously, but The Mummy,
I noticed you didn't bring up the
1999.
Scorpion King. Is there a reason?
The Rock. You're talking about the Rock's movie, or you're talking about him at the end of The Mummy Returns?
That god awful CGI is. Oh man,
But when he raises his eyebrow,
it's barely PlayStation 2 graphics.
yeah. And that's the thing. I saw The Mummy in theaters when I was 9, so I saw it twice in theaters, and I think it still holds up. In terms of anything else I've been watching. Been watching some Godzilla movies. Celeste kind of put the bug in my ear about that. Yeah.
Teasing another future episode. We
Yeah.
can reveal it here. Celeste came on and talked about Godzilla movies, and we both kind of walked away going, God, I kind of want to watch every single Godzilla movie now.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1 this weekend, which I haven't seen yet. I know that they're amazing and all the hyperbole that follows them, but I'm trying to think if I've watched anything else. I'm not really. Like, again, when you watch as much stuff as you do and I do for things,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch stuff in my free time for the most part. I want to play video games or play board games or go outside. Not saying staying inside's not bad, frankly. I love being inside. But it's kind of that same thing of like a chef making food at home when they make it all day. It's like, I don't want to watch. Like because people always ask me, like, what podcast do you listen to? I'll boldface tell you, I don't listen to anything for the most part because I'm literally editing every day. So when I'm free, I don't want to listen to podcasts or watch movies. I want to do other more kind of engaging, interactive things. So I started playing Fallout 4 again, speaking of that. And I've been listening to a ton of music. If anyone has never heard of the band DJO, pronounced Joe, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, you may recognize the leader of the band. It's Joe Keery from Stranger Things, and he makes really good music. And I know this isn't a music thing, but you asked me kind of like what I've been into, and so that's there. And in terms of Scorpion King, I have a pretty funny story about the Scorpion King. Went and saw it on my birthday, back whenever it came out. And the night before, I had like a sleepover party at my parents' house, so we stayed up all night. I slept through the whole movie in the theaters. And when we got out of it, my dad was so mad at me. He's like, "You slept through the whole movie?" And I was like, "I was tired. It was my birthday before." See, your comments already get it. You're already talking about when I'm back in Chicago. I feel it. It's on repeat at this point in my car. Yeah, man. I've been like I said, watching movies is something that I just feel like I always am doing every day. So, I mean, and you mentioned it to me. You're like, you watch stuff all the time. It's like, I do, but I don't, but I do. Yeah. You know.
I really only want to highlight one this week because some of the other stuff I've been watching are for other projects. But man, the one that I watched this week was a shock with how much I loved it. Like, I knew it was going to be a good movie, but I really want to suggest if you are even remotely interested or have fallen off of the Fun City Editions bandwagon after they left OCN, everybody should be checking out the release that they did of Handgun, aka One from the Heart. This movie it's so well made, and it's done in a way that is blunt with how people live their experience after a traumatic event. And if you if you even read the synopsis, you know what the traumatic event is. I don't want to go too much into that, but it is such a like harrowing look at how isolating being a victim of a crime like that is, and it's so disappointing for the fact deep in the heart. Sorry, you're right, Signer. I was thinking of the other one from earlier. I walked away from this just sort of pissed off, but like in the right way, especially because this is over 40 years old, and this movie is so well made. On top of all that, obviously Erica Schultz is on the commentary. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and yes, I've been thinking about that one too much there, Daniel. Erica Schultz is on the commentary with Chris O'Neill, who's also been on the channel before. But Handgun is just so great. And then on top of that, and they go into this through the commentary a lot since Chris is from Ireland, but this was a British production that was set and filmed in Dallas for a reason. It really does have that very like strong Texas culture running through this movie. Yeah, Mom, that is the one that we watched together. Yeah, that movie is ridiculous. Stan
Ryan's mom.
Stan wants to know if you watched the Megalopolis teaser trailer that they put out, the one with Adam Driver.
See, you and I, when we're sitting around working, well, we work and then we talk and then we work and then it's a free flowing entity. We normally watch trailers together, and that was one that I wanted to watch and we just never got around to it. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. Have you?
I did. It's very like when I read Megalopolis teaser, I want to watch it, and then it's kind of not. It's very much an actual teaser. It's like one scene of Adam Driver.
The idea of teasers is actually being shown there. Yeah,
literally taking like 3 steps in the entire teaser. And the only thing that I'm iffy on is Adam Driver's haircut. That's a weird thing to be like iffy on. I've always loved Adam Driver. I think he is great at what he does for the most part. In fact, I discussed what made him a star in an interview I did yesterday from when he was on Girls with Lena Dunham. But yeah, he's great at what he does, and it looks interesting. It looks really well made.
Adam Driver is an actor with a capital A.
Yeah.
He might have been in Star Wars, but brother, that's probably going to be the only thing like that I assume he ever really does. Because he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to get bogged down in franchisey nonsense for his career, given the choices that he's made since.
Yeah.
And he said, like, I'm not going to be in any more Star Wars movies, so good. Same with John Boyega. Like, there's only one person who keeps cashing a check, and good for Daisy Ridley. I mean, somebody's got to keep carrying the torch, but I want Adam Driver to do no more Star Wars. Stay away from it, please. Well, not because Star Wars is bad, but because Adam Driver's a really good actor, and Star Wars doesn't need it, but it's better suited elsewhere for actual things that have some meat on the bone. And I'm not saying Star Wars doesn't, but you don't go watch a Star Wars movie for the deep writing. Maybe you do. Maybe that's why. But I don't think anybody ever said George Lucas wrote great dialogue. And I think that the new movies kind of followed suit. So I love Adam Driver. He's a weird dude. He seems very serious. I mean, he's ex-military. And to Happy Optimist's point, Adam Driver in Logan Lucky. Logan Lucky is a movie that not enough people talk about.
Love them.
And I swear to God, Rian Johnson just ripped off the character from Logan Lucky. Is that not it? I mean, it's just like a little twist on it. Like, have Daniel Craig play a guy from the South, like, and then we're just gonna have him do it again. I don't know. I love Logan Lucky. That was a movie I saw in theaters when it came out. But yeah, Adam Driver's a great actor. That's the thing.
And like you brought up with the Boyega, they make decent choices. Like even Boyega, like I got to go all the way back. I want to see more people love Attack the Block. That movie,
hell yeah, I was about to say
that movie is so unique compared to everything that we've gotten over the last 20 years, and so few people have seen it because it was early in his career. It's got Nick Frost in it in that random ass top of the apartment scene, but everything about that movie is
produced by Edgar Wright.
Yep. So well made, so just really, really ridiculously interesting and entertaining. It's just a really great movie.
I mean, that's the movie that essentially got him the Star Wars gig. So,
right.
Yeah,
and he deserved it from it. His performance was great.
Yeah, it's just kind of a shame that the Star Wars script didn't give him anything to do. Yeah. Of all of the 3 main characters in that or sequel trilogy, he is the least used. Like, after the first movie, like, Can someone tell me what Finn does after the first movie other than walk around with a suit that shoots water out? Like, that's it. Like, there ain't much. And then have like a really ham-fisted like love relationship with another character that everybody hated, which is unfortunate. So, yeah, man, Adam Driver and John Boyega, leave Star Wars in the dust. You guys don't need it. You're good at. I'm not saying Daisy Ridley's not a bad actor, but somebody's gonna cash a check. Might as well be Daisy Ridley.
And again, I still have not seen any of the newer Star Wars movies, so I have no opinion.
I mean, don't run out to see them.
I'm on it, or not on it.
Not on it.
Anything else we want to bring up before we go into our announcements?
What are you excited for this month? Are you going to go see Furiosa in theaters?
Let's see. What's the best way to say this? I don't follow a lot of critics, but I have a couple close friends that write about film in a way that I trust fairly deeply. And the way that they are writing about this is good Mad Max movie, nowhere near Mad Max Fury Road. And
well, that might be the worst thing about Furiosa is that it's a sequel or coming after Fury Road. Like,
right.
You know.
So I mean, I want to see it. Unfortunately, like not to talk about the movie theaters like we just did, but even just taking my wife to the movie theater nowadays for something that we can get a babysitter for. So now it's not a matinee and it's like a late night showing.
Right.
Dude, we're talking $45 if one of us gets a drink, maybe.
Yeah.
That's crazy for a small, not small, but like a small-ish town on the outskirts of a metro in Kansas City. That's a lot of money.
Is it, what are we talking here? Like a Cinemark, AMC?
It's B&B theaters.
Oh.
You don't know B&B? Supposedly they're like the 5th biggest chain in the country.
Huh. Sure. I mean, we only have one movie theater chain here in Lincoln because there was a literal law passed in the 80s that said we can't have movie theaters, a multiplex outside of downtown. And then Greg Marcus showed up in 2014 and made sure it still continued to exist. So I actually, the real reason I hate going to movies in this town is because of the monopoly that's had here by Marcus.
Yeah.
In a Violent Nature, I don't know if it's going to be showing in Lincoln, but I would love to see In a Violent Nature.
Well, and did you see what they announced about that today? It's showing in an unrated cut in the theater, which is super rare.
Interesting. I mean, that's great. And hey, I'll tell you, when we went and saw The Mummy, the tickets were only $5.
Right.
So,
love that, Nicomedes.
Jesus. I mean, hey, AARP, baby.
What's wrong with Beyond Thunderdome, Brian?
I've never seen it, but that's the other thing, by the way, that I've noticed. Everybody drags that third Mad Max movie. I've never seen it, so I'm very excited to see how good, bad, not what everybody was expecting at the time. Like, I don't know. Yeah, Mad Max is not something I have a lot of experience with. Honestly, I was a little disappointed that we didn't take advantage of the fact that the Planet of the Apes movie just came out and do something on that. We kind of missed our chance there because those Planet of the Apes movies are bangers.
Well, I mean, Matt Reeves is good at what he does.
Yeah, he sure is. Close friend of the show, Matt Reeves. We're only one hop away from Matt Reeves. We'll just never get him because who wants to do press when they don't have to, really?
Right.
Like, nobody, frankly.
Other things I'm excited for this month. It's not film related. I've talked about this before a couple times. My friend group that followed me from California here, we all came up from the town where Del Taco started. And I know a lot of people have a bad taste of Del Taco because Del Taco everywhere sucks. But the town that we grew up in, it's all still the same original owners. And it's very different than the franchise Del Tacos everywhere. And pretty much if you live in that town, you work at Del Taco at some point. And I think I was somehow in this entire group, the only one in the friend group that worked at Del Taco. And so every year on Memorial Day weekend, we have a Del Taco night with everybody that moved here from California with us. And I make homemade Del Taco food the right way from the original owner's recipes and give everybody a shit ton of food. And it's that time of the year, and I cannot wait.
Where's my invitation? I'm only a 2.5 hour drive away. If you need ingredients, I can bring them. They'll still be frozen by the time I get there.
Yeah, it's a good
I don't
night.
know who the fuck hates Del Taco, because if you have a Del Taco, you have a Del Taco. You know what we don't have? A Del Taco. So a Del Taco is better than no Del Taco, as far as I'm concerned.
The Del Taco everywhere else, though, they use like lesser quality meat. It's smaller portions. It's not super fresh. They pretty much everything that was made in that small town I was in was all like local butchers and everything. It was really well done. Really well done.
I mean, I love Del Taco. They had them in Texas right before I moved, and they were definitely somewhere that at like a late night type place, or like, and I mean, it replaced Taco Bell, that's for sure. So,
And I do burritos, tacos, chili cheese fries, quesadillas, homemade dressing. I do everything.
do you do
go
free
crazy.
shavacado?
If you want it, yeah.
Oh man,
Their cheeseburgers are surprisingly good.
never had a cheeseburger at Del Taco.
I will, when I worked there, I used to have them a lot more because I can make them the way I want it. But yeah, they're great.
I have been summoned from the ether. Hey, look, if you live somewhere that they don't have a Del Taco and you had it as growing up, you probably are missing it, because I miss it living here. Yeah, that's the spin-off show we're going to do, Taco Connected. Chris and Ryan. That's the thing. We could sit here and talk about food for the next 40 minutes. Nobody would, well, not that nobody would want to listen to it, but that's not why y'all are here. Let's just put it that way. Let's just be kind. You guys are here to listen to us talk about Blu-rays, not tacos.
I'll pitch the next podcast after we take that break from Film Foundations then and say Kansas City has something here called the Taco Trail. Just saying.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me about how good Kansas City barbecue is again.
No, I know that you can never learn the right way. So.
Oh, learn, eh? This is coming from the guy who lives in a place where they don't know how to cook beef correctly. You're right. When they cut the brisket super thin, that's because it's really tender, right? It has nothing to do with the fact that they overcooked it. No?
I mean, yeah, it has nothing to do with the fact that they overcooked
Listen
it.
here. Do you know that's not the case? God.
Not all of it is great here. I will say that.
Yeah.
Some of the classics that people love have gone way downhill. Anyways, this is for the next.
You know what?
podcast.
I was about to say, if this is something y'all want, like, we're here. We're here for it. Beef cooking gatekeeper. It's the one thing.
Did you see what
It is. Yeah, I did. To be honest, there's like very few things I gatekeep on, intentionally or unintentionally. And honestly, it's just a joke between Ryan and I at this point. But yeah, you miss nothing but tacos, baby. Oh, cheesesteaks. Let's keep going. You guys want more?
Let's talk about Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah. Speaking of food, I'm hungry now. Speaking of eating is probably a better way of putting it.
Getting into some of our announcements. June 25th, Brokeback Mountain is coming on 4K from Kino Lorber with the new commentary by Julie Kurgo. I still honestly cannot believe that the studio just allowed a Kino Lorber to release Brokeback Mountain on 4K. You'd think this would be one that they would do widely and probably make some decent money from, but no.
Brokeback Mountain coming soon.
The jokes write themselves. June 25th.
You said it, not me. Great movie, by the way. Great movie.
Very, very underseen movie. I still feel like a lot of people are gatekeeping this movie from themselves. This is one that people absolutely need to check out. This movie is incredible. Two of the best actors.
Remember how Ang Lee won Best Director? And then they couldn't bring themselves to give it to a movie about two gay cowboys for Best Picture? Yeah, that was a fun year. I honest to God love this movie. I've seen it, God, so many times at this point. I don't know. I mean, the comments are correct. It is a modern masterpiece. And it's based off a Larry McMurtry book, so you know, there's no way it's going to be bad.
And it is incredibly acted. That's the biggest thing. The cast of this is just amazing.
Yeah.
Moving right along, Kino is also releasing Body and Soul from 1953 on Blu-ray at some point. We have no release date for this. This one's got John Garfield, Lily Palmer. I'm sure you probably don't have a whole lot to say about this one. Never
seen it. A lot of early cinema is definitely out of my wheelhouse for sure. So Dr. Will Dodson was on an episode of our show talking about musicals from this time, and I was just sitting there going, "What?" So, because again, like, there you go.
It was a learning period for us for sure.
Yeah.
Next, Kino announced, we're going to get some more details about this soon, but 3 titles that Imprint has previously released in Australia, we are getting here in the States. These are all coming on July 9th in single releases. We get Comeback Little Sheba, The Country Girl, and The Rose Tattoo. I think I've only seen The Country Girl from these, and it's decent. Definitely decent. Any of these you've seen or any?
No. I mean, Burt Lancaster and William Holden, but like I said, just for me, a lot of early pre-60s cinema is just very much a blind spot for me.
Yeah. Rose Tattoo is a great Aussie band, says Brian.
It's a great name.
It is a good name. All right. Our first big title of the week. We don't have an actual release date for this yet, but so far in the UK, they are releasing A Nightmare on Elm Street on 4K, coming from Warner Brothers themselves. This is coming in a steelbook. It will be coming with a Blu-ray disc and a 4K disc. It will have a rigid slipcase around the steelbook, a double-sided poster, some art cards, a booklet. It will be numbered, and then there will be some archival special features on the disc, and that is it. Doesn't look like we're getting anything new there. It will be new key art. It will not be the original art. And this so far has only been announced for the UK. I have no doubt that this will be coming in the US. But first off, before I go into some speculation, all that stuff, how do you, Chris, because I know this answer and I can't wait to hear how you muse about it, how do you feel about A Nightmare on Elm Street?
I mean, it's the best horror franchise. Period. And it's directed by Wes Craven, at least the first one. And then my other favorite one being New Nightmare. Nightmare on Elm Street is the horror franchise I watched first. A Nightmare on Elm Street was essentially the first horror movie I chose to watch as an adult, followed up very quickly by Scream in the same evening. So I blasted myself with Wes Craven very early on in my film going life, 16, 17. So I love this movie. I watch this movie once a year, at least once a year, probably more. It's an easy throw on. It's an easy watch. 1, 3, and New Nightmare. Those are my favorite of the trilogy or of the series. And I consider those 3 kind of a piece, as it were, given the kind of Heather Langenkamp of it all. But yeah, man, you can't say enough good things about A Nightmare on Elm Street, right? You just can't.
I agree. I don't know that it's the best horror franchise ever, but I think it's very, very good. I had an incredible experience back in, if KB is still in chat, correct me if I'm wrong on the year here. I think it was October of 2022 where KB and I went and watched, and Cam too, who's also in the chat. We watched literally all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies except for the remake in one day in a movie theater together, starting at, I think it was 11 a.m. And then I didn't get home that night. 2022. Okay, perfect. I didn't get home till 1:15, 1:30 in the morning. So it was literally a bigger portion of a weekend. And it was incredible. And the 4K restoration of this movie played that weekend. And it looked very good. I'm very stoked that we're finally getting on physical media. I will say, this has brought out what I view as some of the lesser sides of physical media YouTube, because this gets announced and everybody comes out and says, well, in my opinion, this means we're getting a box set of all of the 4K movies in the US here. This means that we are getting certain movies coming in 4K and a boutique label will be releasing it. I'll just be here to say you have no idea about any of that, and you probably shouldn't be telling your thousands of subscribers on YouTube that that's happening or anything, because no, none of that is the truth, and none of us know that until it happens. The fact that Warner Brothers is releasing it themselves says a lot about that.
Right.
It's wild that we are in a situation where one film gets announced and suddenly there are YouTubers everywhere, literally in one day, 35 videos literally made about this one announcement saying what is coming soon because of this. That's insanity to me. The speculation about some of these, I really wish people would calm down about, because it's not something that we can do. It's not something that we can do to steer people the wrong way. It doesn't make any sense. It's literally damaging the idea of physical media when you're telling people not to buy this, when in all reality, Warner Brothers might be releasing this first one and not having restored any of the other ones yet, and said, if people buy this one, then we'll restore the other ones.
Right.
And if you're telling your 20,000 followers to not buy this, that could literally be the number of people that could have bought this and put it over the edge. And so I'm not going to go out there and tell everybody to buy it, because you absolutely should make the choice with your own pocketbook. And if they're really only doing it in the UK, which would be wild, you should pay attention and look at the cost, because this thing is like $60 in the UK. I think this will be coming in the US. I would say wait for that. But if you want it, buy it. If you don't, speculate and take your time.
I wanted to quantify something, because I'm looking at the comments. The reason I like Nightmare on Elm Street so much as a franchise is primarily due to one thing: the continued involvement of Robert Englund throughout all of them, and taking the character of Freddy and making it something that it started out as one thing, ended as another, and then, hey, Second Sight is supposed to be releasing The Hitcher.
They are, absolutely.
Well, I know, because Heather has a essay on it.
Oh, that hasn't been announced yet.
Oops. Sorry, folks. But to be fair, like, the joke of it coming eventually, I've heard that bandied about on the internet plenty at this point. Because, man, I mean, we did an episode on The Hitcher a year ago at this point, and we were talking about it then on the episode, because Heather mentions it on the episode, I'm pretty sure. Because she was like, because I mean, we've talked about it a couple times. So, yeah, whoops, but who knows?
Silent Mandible wants to know, how do you feel about the Hitcher remake? Have you seen it?
Sean Bean's pretty good.
I think it's a very underrated remake. I think it's one of the better ones, and because it has not been super accessible, I think people have looked at it just simply as a remake without actually watching it and said it sucks because it's a remake. It's pretty damn good. It's not Rutger Hauer, but it's pretty damn good.
But it's Sean Bean.
Right.
Yeah, like, Sean Bean's amazing. Like, I'm not going to compare Rutger Hauer and Sean Bean, no, I mean, the Hitcher, the original Hitcher's great. The remake is its own movie. I mean, look, it came out, speaking of remakes, it came out, a couple years before the Nightmare on Elm Street remake did?
Yeah, I think 3 years, yeah.
That does not deserve to be defended, because it has a lot of problems, and it wastes the talents of immensely talented people. So, like Rooney Mara and Jackie Earle Haley. So I don't think we're going to get a 4K of that movie. We might, but...
Oh, it's been teased already.
Oh, no. Whoa. Who wants that? I want to know who's clamoring for a 4K version of
we're going down the who wants that path again.
No, it's
dug out of that hole.
No, it's not. It's a matter of, I didn't think anybody defended that movie.
The only reason I want it, I think Jackie Earle Haley. Wow, that's not his name. Jackie Earle Haley was decent.
He's great.
The makeup is obviously awful. But on top of that, I really like Kyle Gallner, and he's good in it. So
yeah, well, that's why I said, like, everybody who's in it's great. That's the problem here for me, is that movie has a great cast, but it's not well written. And there's a moment in that movie that I genuinely believe they could have dug, speaking of digging yourself out of a hole, they could have dug themselves out of the hole they put themselves in by actually, at the end of the movie, having the reveal not be a reveal, and it actually being someone unjustly killed. And then it's kind of takes the original. Yeah, so.
All right. I think that's enough about Nightmare on Elm Street. As I said, we will get more info eventually, and I still can't believe that there are like hundreds and hundreds of people that clamored out to pre-order this already without knowing all the details, like, especially because there very well could be something comparable coming in the US. I doubt that because it's Warner Brothers, but I don't know. $60 is a lot for a Studio 4K.
Don't. You just told me not to hate on people. Don't be hating on people that want to spend $60 out of turn. Hey, you know what they say? You'll get your DVD from the UK and we'll have our Blu-rays already. Like, who knows? I mean, to your point, this is such a big movie. Come on. Like, there's, right?
To a point. I do think that they very well may be treating this as a test to see how many they do with the sequels. So that's important.
Yeah, I'm excited for this, obviously.
All right. Next up, a company we've not talked about in quite some time. I feel like they've been silent for, gosh, maybe even like a year or more. June 25th, Grasshopper Film is releasing Lady Killer from 1937. I'm not even going to try to say the French name because I cannot speak French. This one is going to have a brand new 4K restoration and it's supposed to be a pretty great film. It's from 1937. So I imagine this will look very good.
I would assume so.
Yeah, moving right along. Army of Shadows from 1969 is coming on June 3rd on Blu-ray only in the UK. Studio Canal is doing this as part of their Vintage World Cinema line. This is one that a lot of people were fairly happy about that this was getting announced. I think that the previous restoration or the previous release of this had some problems from what I heard. But yeah, this is a World War II film, and this one, it was previously restored in 4K, and it's getting a decent looking Blu-ray, it sounds like.
I like that box art.
Yeah, this is pretty decent. Studio Canal's been doing pretty well lately. Next up, Bert Reynolds in Paternity. This is coming on Blu-ray and DVD on June 25th from Kino. This got a new audio commentary by Brian Reisman and Max Every. And man, they've done a ton of Bert Reynolds movies recently. How do you feel about Bert? I don't think we've talked about him.
I like Bert Reynolds a lot. We, 3 years ago now? 3 years ago in June, did Burt Reynolds Month on the Culture Cast, and that was programmed by Richard Haddam and Cullen Gallagher, who are very big Burt Reynolds fans. So they showed me all about the magic of Burt Reynolds. Got to see Smokey and the Bandit. Got to see Sharky's Machine. Didn't see this though, unfortunately. This looks great. I'm a little disappointed that Dom DeLuise isn't in this movie. I'm kidding, by the way. Cannonball. This might wrangle some people, but Cannonball Run is. I enjoyed it, but Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds together was a bit much. More just Dom DeLuise than Burt Reynolds, but I love Burt Reynolds. He's just so cool. Right? He's cool. It's just the poster.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I love it. Don't you love this? Don't you love this box art? He looks like even he's not taking it seriously. He's like,
it's funny for sure, but it also for some reason is a bit unsettling just because of Burt Reynolds.
He wants you to have his baby. Okay, it's like a threat, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, in today's society, that's
right.
Very well received.
Is he a man or the bear in this situation? He's very hairy.
Oh, what a timely reference. I love it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
88 Films announced a shit ton of movies that we're going to talk about tonight. The first one is Pumpkinhead 2 Blood Wings from 1993. This is coming on Blu-ray and DVD in the UK on July 15th. Have you ever seen Pumpkinhead, even the first one?
I haven't, shockingly. I know it has a dear friend, Lance Hendrickson, in it, but never seen it. I mean, I've heard the Misfits song a million times.
Yeah, I for some reason I like the effects a lot in that first one. I don't love like the plot or anything like that. It's decent. This second one is not very good at all. But
I mean, Blood Wings. What a good name.
I laughed a little bit because somebody commented here, we get Pumpkinhead 2 in the UK before the US. We have the first one, WTF. I had to respond to this person and say, hey, the US got a Blu-ray of Pumpkinhead 2 more than a decade ago. and it's already been in print and long ran out of print. So I love that people are so far behind on that.
Yeah, I still need to watch the first one. It's good, right?
It's worth it to watch, especially for the creature and the effects and all that.
Right.
Stuff.
Well, it's Stan Winston, right?
And Lance Hendrickson, he's always fun.
Yeah, he doesn't like puppets though. I did an interview with him a very long time ago, and he just couldn't get off, because I was talking to him about Tales from the Crypt, and he just couldn't get off of the topic of how much he hated the puppet and the wraparounds. He's like, I don't like the puppet. It freaks me out. And I'm like, and then he's subsequently went on to talk about how much he loved doing pottery and wishes he could just do pottery all day. And I'm like, I don't even know where this interview was meant to start, but we're just out in the weeds with Lance Hendrickson talking about God knows what. Yeah, I don't know. How many of these are there? There's like at least 2 or 3 more, right? There's not just 2 Pumpkinhead movies, right?
I think there might be 3 total. It's not a long franchise. There's definitely not 5 of them.
So no Film Foundations is what you're saying.
No Film Foundations, not enough.
Shame.
Moving right along, 88 Films is releasing Immortal Story from 1986. And I got to say, the packaging design on this is really great. I've not seen this movie, but I like that they're doing this whole slipcover with the cage thing. I think that's a fun idea. I'm glad that they're trying that out. 88 Films trying to do something interesting with that.
I love the box art. Hell yeah.
Yeah, looks really great. This movie is supposed to be great, and it's also got a little partner release that they're doing. This is also July 15th on Blu-ray in the UK. This is An Autumn's Tale. This one has Chow Yun-fat. And again, I think this looks like a really well-designed package.
I have seen An Autumn's Tale.
How do you feel about An Autumn's Tale?
I mean, I love Chow Yun-fat. Chow Yun-fat is an actor who his representation in the United States in terms of American cinema, not great. Everything else he's done, like genuinely amazing filmmaking. Yeah, I love Chow Yun-fat. His work with John Woo, this is not a non-John Woo film. I want to say this was a Mike White May watch, maybe 2022, because we did a whole month of Chow Yun-fat movies, and this was one of them. It's a very low-key movie. He's not shooting people. He's not killing people. Yeah. He's not Inspector Tequila, but if you want to see like a nice romantic movie with Chow Yun-fat, this is a pretty good pickup, I feel like.
It's very atypical for Chow Yun-fat.
Yeah, and look at the box art. I mean, come on.
That pier looks really nice.
Everything about it's pretty great.
Next one. This is pretty bad cover art. July 15th, they are releasing Night of the Big Heat. This is a stellar cast and crew. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, directed by Terrence Fisher in this one. This says, a scorching picture from 1967. Night of the Big Heat is a sweat-inducing shocker based on the 1957 novel from John Lymington. The remote island of Farah is experiencing a stifling heat wave in the middle of winter, causing life as the locals know it to come to a halt. Tensions rise as the heat increases, plus a high-pitched tone of unknown origin is incinerating the villagers. Directed by Hammer favorite Terrence Fisher and starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee alongside chiseled-jawed Patrick Allen, Night of the Big Heat is sizzling British sci-fi at its most intense.
I would say that The Wicker Man is sizzling British horror at its finest.
I agree, Dustin. I read this and went, yeah, this sounds really interesting, but man, this cover art.
This cover art is bargain bin. Put it right. That is Walmart $5 bin has written all over it. Like, and I don't know what it is. I think it's that for me. It's that negative of the photo. That's just like what a choice.
Yes, it really has. It's been under the other title in the U.S., I believe, for quite some time.
This is one that seems interesting. This one we might need to check this one out for sure.
Next is Sex and Zen. The notorious title is coming on July 29th on Blu-ray and DVD from 88 Films. And the big thing here, this was presented now finally uncut and remastered for the very first time in the entire world. There was a release that came out from Umbrella in Australia fairly recently, like a year and a half ago. And unfortunately, that was just an upscale of the DVD, and it was cut. So this is going to be a big change compared to that one.
I'm reading what the synopsis of this movie is, and
Why don't you read it for all of us, Chris?
oh, sure. We follow a desperate man who is convinced by his mentor that he needs to be well equipped to pleasure his wife, so he has a horse's appendage transplanted onto him. From here on, it gets really strange. Boy, thank God that was the moment when a horse dick is on the guy's butt. Now it's strange, everybody. Like,
Hey, it never said dick. It just said appendage. You're assuming.
so, it's the implication, isn't it?
It's the right hind leg.
Yeah, they gave him a horse's tongue. That's what it is. God. He just really likes peanut butter now. God. Oh, there are 4 Pumpkinhead movies. I bet there's one that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's got to be what it is.
There's probably that 4th one is probably a Pumpkinhead movie only in name, and there's nothing related to the other ones.
It's like a Hellraiser movie, right? Like Hellraiser 8. Who cares about the last 7?
That, and it's a different movie for 84 minutes, and then Pinhead shows up for 4 minutes.
I like the audience though. Could be an arm, could be a tail. Sure. We all know what it is. Okay, yes. Mr. Hands knows, we know, we all know. I'm going to watch this movie because it sounds insane.
At 3, I mean. Anyways, let's go on to the next one, which is The Pleasure. This is coming on Blu-ray and DVD on the same day as Section's End. This is from 1985 and says, prolific Italian director Joe D'Amato is back in the softcore zone with a sordid tale about Gerard, who pines for his dead lover, Leonora, whilst listening to old audio tapes of them having sex, sparking memories of their erotic encounters. Back in the present, his daughter, who is the mirror image of her mother, already a weird sentence, finds the tapes, which leads to questionable trysts and sordid couplings, with plenty of exposed flesh and the bonus of starring Laura, a.k.a. Emmanuel Gemser. This is one of D'Amato's most stylish and accomplished bump and grind efforts. Fans of Tinto Brass will want to get their hands on this one.
Can I just say bump and grind efforts is just the fucking funniest thing I've ever... What's your best bump and grind effort?
Well, that, especially when said in regards to Joe D'Amato.
Joe D'Amato. The H word.
Going to the next one. The Sorcerers. First off, absolutely remarkable cover art compared to that one that we just saw a couple minutes ago. This looks really great for this cover. This is coming on July 29th on Blu-ray and DVD in the UK. This is part of the Tygon collection that they've been doing. This is The Sorcerers from 1967. This is a big one starring Boris Karloff and done by Michael Reeves. And yeah, I believe this should be the best that this film has looked yet.
Interesting cover.
Yeah, I love the style on these ones. In fact, I think we got one more. Yeah. The next Tygon titles come the same day, July 29th, Blu-ray and DVD in the UK. This is Curse of the Crimson Altar, or as you may know it in the US, The Crimson Cult. This one stars Christopher Lee and Boris Karloff. I did want to highlight one thing, because I know that we've talked about formats for physical media before. Somebody went and asked 88 Films, why are you releasing these on DVD? Are they selling well for you? In the comments on these, because most of the other boutiques in the UK have stopped selling DVDs altogether. And they said, well, they're not selling very well, but the DVD copies will sell somewhere between 300 and 500 titles, and they're fairly cheap to make, and that will be 300 to 500 people that never would have seen it, and now they will. So that shows you how little people are buying DVDs from the boutique world nowadays.
Shame.
Blu-ray and 4K. I'm all about those. I get it.
I mean, hey, but DVD. I mean, I don't know. I still have a place in my heart for DVDs.
I agree, especially on some of those titles that have never made the HD upgrade.
Yeah.
But if you can watch it in Blu-ray
and
high def, definitely choose that.
For sure.
Next up is the title Funeral Home. This is coming from 88 Films on July 29th on Blu-ray as part of their Slasher Classics collection. And this one is interesting because they had kind of hinted that they might have been done with the Slasher Classics line, and they suddenly announced a couple of them. This one got released by Scream Factory here just a few months ago in the US. So if you were collecting the Slasher Classics line or you're in the UK, this might be the way to go. I'm glad this is coming out. This is a pretty well-made movie. The one thing I wanted to point out about this is a 12 certification in the UK. Don't let that deter you. It's still a pretty good movie. Not every movie is going to be an over-the-top, gory, sex-filled romp or something that's a horror movie. This is still a good movie. Absolutely worth it. And I only say that because I got multiple comments saying, oh, it's only a cert 12. Definitely boring.
I mean, watch the movie. You can't do that.
Agreed. Gatekeeping yourself. The next Slasher Classics title is Skinned Alive. This is from 1990, also coming on July 29th. This one is starring Scott Spiegel from Evil Dead and produced by J.R. Bookwalter. Yeah, this is a good movie too. Not terrible. Pretty good.
Never seen it.
It's worth a check out, I think. Then this one's a big deal for a lot of people. Sometime this summer, Media Blasters is releasing Kamen Rider: The Trilogy Elite Collection. This will be a slipcase set and only available via direct sales, and will have a bonus disc with Kamen Rider World. So if you want to get this, you can get it from the Media Blaster storefront. You can pre-order it now. I don't know anything about Kamen Rider. I know that a lot of people love this. Have you seen anything Kamen Rider?
No, I haven't, but frequent creative collaborator Mike White was talking about that with me earlier because we were talking about Shin Godzilla. And Shin Kamen Rider is a reboot of Kamen Rider, I'm assuming. I appreciate the comment, by the way. I'll take that as a compliment because I don't know how else to take it. So I don't say racist things like Jim Cornette, and I'm not a psychotic person like Chris Jericho. So, maybe it's not a compliment. I don't know.
Anyways, the brand new film from Mr. Guy Ritchie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, is getting a Amazon exclusive 4K steelbook. You can pre-order this now. Steelbook looks pretty good. I'm digging the slipcover that they've got over this one. I've not seen this one, and you and I have never talked about Guy Ritchie. How do you feel about Guy Ritchie?
Seen a couple of his movies. What the fuck is what did he make, that King Arthur movie with Charlie Hunnam a couple years ago?
He sure did.
I saw that in theaters. It was okay. I don't know. Guy Ritchie just makes it. Guy Ritchie, in a lot of ways, for me, is like Soderbergh. He's just always working. He's always making something. So I haven't watched enough of his stuff to have much of an opinion. This movie. I was actually about to confuse this with Argyle, which is another movie that existed in the last year, I believe. Also had Henry Cavill in it. No,
I'm not sure. The only thing I know is
John Cena in it. That's for sure.
Oh, a whole bunch of people said that Argyle is the worst movie ever made.
Have they seen Mordecai?
Guy Ritchie is interesting because I think in the last 2 years he's released like 3 movies. And what's wild is, like you said, he's just always working. But it turns out like his movies are not making that much money. And I'm just glad the studio likes him and they keep letting him do it. I don't know. I don't know who he's won over, but yeah, he's seemingly been able to keep doing the same thing over and over.
Good for him. Working within the studio system like that's pretty impressive.
Yes, Argyle was this year.
See, I was just waiting to see because, I heard it was terrible, but I would love to be wrong. I don't know if I'll ever watch it, but I heard plenty of people dragging it, and I was like, okay.
Multiple fans in the comments, though. It looks like I've not heard many people talking about it. Not possible. Bryce Dallas Howard is in it. That automatically elevates it to okay. Other things notwithstanding. Oh, KB says it is up there with Mordecai. See.
I mean, we're all over the board, or downed there. I think, or downed there, as they put. So yeah.
Somebody watching just texted me. It's the worst thing ever.
Oh, jeez. What is this? No, Argyle or Mordecai? Oh, jeez. See what I mean?
Oh, that's hilarious. Going to the next one. Hey, I put up an interview this week with Michelle Kisner, who is a writer. She's been writing for some of these physical media releases that we all love. She is a pretty great critic, located up near Detroit, and has a lot of upcoming releases. And I'm hoping to work with her on a few things. I think it was a pretty fun conversation, and it's one of those people that didn't go to film school and is super inspiring for listening to how she learned about critiquing film properly. Give it a watch. Check it out if that's the sort of thing you're into. Next up, this is a massive announcement. Celluloid Dreams, who is, if you remember, a fairly brand new label. Technically, their first title hasn't even released yet. And this is their second title. This is coming soon. We don't know when, but they are putting out a 4K release of Black Belly of the Tarantula. This is like one of 3 or 4 of the massive giallo titles that have never been released on HD, and it's coming soon. Like this is a pretty big deal for people that are loving giallo. This one and House with the Laughing Windows, and just a couple other that aren't quite as big as those. People are really clamoring for those, and we know that House with the Laughing Windows is coming soon in the U.S. We don't know who from. We had that confirmed by a French boutique recently, but it will be coming in 4K. I can't wait to see when that gets announced. I just hope Celluloid Dreams, when they release their first title next month, which is The Case of the Bloody Iris, by the way, I hope that it's good, because to be able to trust them with titles like this is a big deal. And I just wonder why other big boutiques like Arrow, like if a brand new boutique could get this, how did Arrow or some of these other boutiques not get this? It could be a chance of literally just knowing the right person, but this is a pretty big deal.
I'm going to go with knowing the right person, especially in this industry, right?
Either that or somebody found the elements and they kind of like kept it to themselves. That's a Darren titty.
That is officially a new word. Congratulations. You have summoned that into being.
Black Belly of the Trantity.
Yeah.
Going to the next title now. We are getting a handful of brand new Lionsgate Steelbooks coming to Walmart on July 2nd. A couple of them 4K. We will talk about those as we go. First one is Saw X. Walmart uses really shitty low-res pictures, unfortunately. But this is a really interesting cover. It kind of matches the one that came out in France, but it's also got a slipcover on top of it that will obscure the image in a way that is just weird with the way all these bodies are sprawled across the front. That is coming. I don't believe there'll be any new special features or anything, but we never got a steelbook when that released last year, so that'll be nice to have. Did you see Saw X yet? I don't think
I haven't yet because we're doing a Saw thing later this year for Film Foundations. Not to give too much away, and that's all I'll say. But I haven't watched it yet because I know I probably need to watch it closer to when we're doing that. So to give any more of it away, but yeah, I haven't seen it. I know it's amazing. I did see Spiral from the Book of Saw, which woof. And we're gonna have to talk about that too. So
yeah, I was very disappointed because that was the first, like, in the middle of the pandemic, back to the theater movie I went and saw.
Movies are back. They're back, baby.
Yeah. Going to the next one. Angel Has Fallen coming in a 4K Steelbook at Walmart on that same day, July 2nd. You could pre-order now. I've never seen any from this franchise.
Me either, but I know, I don't know if this is a ringing endorsement, but people like my parents seem to like these movies. So, I don't know, good, bad. I mean, like, here's the crazy thing. Can we just pause here for a second? Gerard Butler.
Action star.
I know. Well, and that's the thing, like, Gerard Butler, action star, not really that surprising, given 300, right, and other things. But he's still just keeping it real, man. He's been keeping it real for a while, because this is the third one of these movies, which is insanity to me. Because wasn't there also, correct me if I'm wrong here, this is the franchise with Morgan Freeman as the president.
Yes.
Isn't there also a movie with Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx as president?
Yes.
That came out like literally within a year or so of whatever the hell the first one of this was, Olympus Has Fallen?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, they're just big, dumb action movies, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's White House.
White House Down.
Yeah. I saw that one. It was fine. Like, Honestly, in a lot of ways, all this is doing is just picking up the mantle of certain people like Bruckheimer, Michael Bay. It's just like a big dumb action movie, which there's nothing wrong with that. I actually
There's space for it.
I kind of want to watch these movies. Honestly, they seem like
Yeah.
like something you just like throw on the weekend. You're just like, I'm just fucking around the house,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, like I said, my folks like these movies, and my folks love action movies. Like they're super into The Beekeeper right now, which I watched and I had a good time.
Great, yeah.
I had a good time with, yeah. Jason Statham, baby, like, you know, nothing wrong with that. Jason Statham, Gerard Butler, they're all kind of a piece,
blows
right?
my mind about Jason Statham. Anyways,
Oh, you have to say that here so that
Okay.
your audience here can say it, because when you said it, it was a genuinely shocking fact for me as well.
so listen to this. This is so wild to me. Chris and I were talking about actors and breaking down some of their careers, and I went looking for something about Jason Statham. And when you go look at his filmography, every single thing he has been in has had a theatrical release. He has not done anything direct to video, no direct to TV, and he's also never done television. How insane is that for somebody like Jason Statham to be able to say that? Most actors can't say that. I mean, most actors have done at least one to get their career started. Jason Statham started theatrically and has never stopped. He's never done TV, never done direct to video. That is insanity for somebody that makes like modern like B movies, basically.
And on top of everything else, the first two movies he was in were Guy Ritchie movies.
And they're great.
Yeah, I think they're probably what I think most people would consider to be Guy Ritchie's best movies. Probably Lock, Stock, and Snatch. So, yeah, because all of his movies do make a profit. I mean, he's a profitable star. He's good
Not
looking.
arguing that, yeah.
He's good looking. He can speak rather well. He doesn't have much of an accent. He has the kind of accent that people like the British accent, right? By God, no, I mean that fucking whatever that is. People really resonate with that. And look, if you've never seen Crank, Crank's a wild movie, and then Crank 2 is just Crank 2 is like being on speed in terms of film. Like Crank 2 is a wild movie. And yes, Statham was actually really good in Spy.
Spy was great.
Yeah, Spy is, and I do not resonate with Melissa McCarthy as an actress, but she is great in that movie, and he is great in that movie. Lock, Stock, and Snatch, baby.
Oh man,
That was the third character that you never see in Nightmare Before Christmas. Lock, Stock, and Snatch.
Let's see. Brian was saying Wild Card was in the theater. I went through and checked. Every single one had a theatrical release, which is insane.
Wild Card. What the hell was that?
I don't even know.
Oh, it's a remake of a William Goldman book from 1985. Interesting. Look, Jason Statham has a lot of range. I mean, look, I don't know the first time you saw him in something, but he made a massive impression on me the first time I saw in 2003 Louis Leterriers' The Transporter. The Transporter is an amazing movie.
It's great,
I rewatched it 2 weeks ago when I was in Phoenix for my birthday, and man, that scene when he runs up to the door and kicks it in and fights all those guys, like that is for me, like that's one of the top things that he's ever done. He's an amazing actor, and on top of everything else, he is fighting the good fight for stunt performers in Hollywood.
Agreed.
Which is not something that anybody else is doing, best I can tell.
I love that we just went down the Jason Statham rabbit hole during Angel Has Fallen on the screen.
I mean, he could have been in this movie for all intents and purposes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, going to the next steelbook from Walmart. Same day, July 2nd, Diary of the Dead, George A. Romero's Diary of the Dead. I gotta be honest, I don't love this movie. I know a lot of people have a soft spot for it. It's still way better than Survival. But I gotta admit, this steelbook looks pretty nice for it. This is a pretty good design.
I haven't seen past Land. Is that the Dennis Hopper one with the building and they're in the big tall building? That's Land of the Dead, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That was the last Romero one that I saw. I haven't seen this one or the one afterwards. This is found footage, no?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like found footage on the
I believe so.
steelbook, at least.
Just speaking of, you brought up Land. That also has somebody we've been talking about, Edgar Wright, and Simon Pegg in it.
That's right. Yeah, I should check this out for sure.
It's much better than Survival. Survival was atrocious. And then the last one, they are doing Escape Plan, a triple feature. This is the Stallone franchise that he did. That first one, hell of a cast in that first movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it, Amy Ryan, Vincent D'Onofrio, Sam Neill. I've never seen any of these.
No, man, there's 3 of them.
Yeah. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Hey,
right.
Good for them. I mean, does this not have Stallone in it? Is not the same thing that has Stallone in it, or no?
The first one does, at least. I'm not sure about the sequels.
I thought that he was in the subsequent ones, and Schwarzenegger wasn't. I think that's what it is, because I think Batista's in one of them even.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
See, I'd watch a Dave Bautista Stallone movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so he has glorified cameos. Okay. See, I knew it was like, I remember them on the poster, but it's kind of what I assumed.
Huh.
The first one has Schwarzenegger and Stallone in it. That should be like a selling point enough, I would have thought.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I haven't even seen it either, so.
It's the Hard Rock Cafe remake, the battle from the late 80s and early 90s. All we need is a Bruce Willis cameo.
Right? Jeez.
Next up, Full Moon, another company that we just talked about in the Indie Vampire episode. Shadow Zone is getting a release. This is coming on Blu-ray. You can get it now. It's showing as in stock on Amazon, and Full Moon is carrying it. This one is supposedly newly remastered. Got a trailer and some other Full Moon trailers on here. Yeah, that's it.
Full Moon, baby. Full Moon's a hell of a production studio. One of my close friends was AD on Baby Oopsie 2. Electric Oopsaloo.
Is that actually what it's called?
No, I wish. Electric Oopsaloo? That would be
I believe you because of Full Moon.
Oh, wow. You're giving... I mean, yeah. Baby Oopsie 2. Electric Oopsaloo. Whatever an Oopsaloo is, I want to know now. Oopsaloo.
It's one of those accent marks over an O in
okay.
South Africa.
Yeah. Oopsaloo.
Next, Full Moon is releasing The Primevals. This is coming on September 10th. You'll recognize this because we just had this announced by Umbrella in one of these giant, crazy packages with like a giant book. They're doing, I think it's a 2-disc release in Australia, and it's going to have a load of special features. Unfortunately, this will come nowhere near that release. So if you are really dying to see this or you love this type of thing, you want the Australian release. You are not going to want the Full Moon release. In the US, there is another release that was, I believe, a part of an Indiegogo campaign or Kickstarter or something like that. That one will have a bunch of special features, but if you weren't in that campaign, I don't think you were going to be able to get it. So if you are normies like all of us, you're going to want to get that Umbrella release if you're really after this film.
Looks great. It's got a Yeti in it.
Yeah. Big classic here. Kino is releasing Invasion of the Body Snatchers on 4K. This is coming on June 25th, and this is the 1956 version. And man, the way they formatted these discs, we have a new audio commentary by Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, another new audio commentary by Jason A. Nye, and then we've got 2 archival commentaries, one with Kevin McCarthy and Dana Winter and Joe Dante, and then another one with Richard Harlan Smith. And that means we have 4 commentaries for this film and nothing else brand new. So if you really love commentaries, this is going to be a hell of a package.
Legendary filmmaker Joe Dante, they will have you know.
Yeah, talking about another legendary filmmaker, Don Siegel.
What a great movie. I mean, what a great movie. What a great remake on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And then, this might be an unpopular opinion, I don't dislike the 3rd remake. The Daniel Craig, is it Daniel Craig or Kidman?
I don't remember. What year was that? I don't even remember.
2000 and... Oh, it was around the time right after he got the James Bond gig.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
That movie's not bad.
I don't think I've seen that one, so I can't comment on that one. I just remember hearing about it. I do want to say, if you love this movie, Stan here says, I've got the olive edition, and I do want to say for everybody, if you love this movie, you might want to keep that one because that has like 5 or 6 special features that are not on this disc. So you may want to, if this is like one of your favorites, you might want to keep both.
Sorry, it's the 4th one. I do love that your comments are keeping us honest. I've never seen the Abel Ferrara run. I've seen the other 3. But yeah, 2007, The Invasion. Great movie. I actually enjoyed it. I like Daniel Craig a fair amount. And it's not just because of Bond, honestly.
And this is the alternate cover art for this one. I like that quite a bit. And it's also coming out on a standard standalone Blu-ray release, just in case you do not have the olive release. But yeah, a lot of those special features, look who's here. A lot of those special features from the olive release did not carry over.
Shame.
Celeste says hi. Celeste, you got a call out earlier. We talked about your upcoming episode on Film Foundations.
I will be watching Godzilla on your recommendations.
Next, Film Movement is releasing Club Zero on May 28th. From what I can tell, this will not be released through OCN. So if you are getting movies from Film Movement, this one I believe is going to be just theirs. You might be able to get it on the website, but I don't believe this will have a fancy OCN slipcover or anything like that. It might in June. I could be wrong, but from what I can tell from my research, it does not look like it's coming to the Vinegar Syndrome website. This one has an interview with the director, interview with the star, Mia Wasikowska, and a Jessica Hausner masterclass from the Munich International Film Festival is on here. I've read that this is a great movie. I've not seen this.
Me either.
Looks good, and Film Movement does great work.
Look at all the qualifiers on the box. I mean, no, I'm being serious. Like it's probably. I mean, those are some. I mean, Screen Anarchy is a good one. Screen Rant, not bad.
Variety.
Yeah, Ion Cinema.
Going to the next one. This is a big deal. Ted Lasso, the Apple series, is getting a complete series Blu-ray release on July 30th from Warner Brothers. How do you feel about Ted Lasso?
I do have opinions. If you're genuinely asking, first 2 seasons of the show are great. 3rd season of the show is just. Whew. I don't. It in a lot of ways it feels like late stage Game of Thrones. It feels like they kind of just rushed the 3rd season. A lot of the storylines that they were kind of hinting at the end of the 2nd season literally go nowhere in the 3rd season. Like the whole thing with Nate as a evil coach, all that just kind of falls off a cliff. I don't know. I like the first 2 seasons. I love the 1st season of the show. But the 1st and 2nd season are pretty good. 3rd season's not great. So I'll probably... I don't know. I understand people's apprehension to watching it. It is a great, uplifting, positive show. And you have to remember when it came out. It came out like at the height of COVID. So It's one of those things that like I genuinely appreciated existing during COVID because it was an uplifting, nice piece of. You've seen it, right?
I've not seen Ted Lasso.
Oh man, you live.
I don't
in
have
Kansas
Apple.
City,
I don't have Apple
places.
TV.
He's like a Kansas City thing. Like
He is, yeah.
that's shocking. I mean, yeah, that's fair. If you don't have Apple TV, you don't have Apple TV. It's a good one. I mean, I understand if it's like normie or mainstream or whatever, but I think it's a pretty uplifting show. I think it's for the most part well written through the 2nd season, and Jason Sudeikis has created a character that will live on forever. And and on top of everything else, it was from a fucking ad. It was like an NBC Sports ad. It's where the character came from. Do you remember that?
I
It was
don't.
like 2017. And he was doing this character in advertisements to get people to watch soccer in this country. And so they sent him over there and he was acting out of sorts. And that's kind of what the show's about. And then he turned it into a show, which is, I mean, again, it's like Ernest P. Worrell, kind of. Like, oh, it's like a thing that wasn't a thing, and now it's a thing. I know people have probably, I see in the comments, a bunch of people said, like, I've been told to watch it, and I say no. Like, I get it. I understand the apprehension. I was in the same camp. Check out an episode or 2. It might be for you. It might not be. The first season's episodes are 15, 20, 25 minutes, because it gets longer in the 3rd season. But the 1st season and 2nd season are, 20-minute episodes. So you can plow through the first 2 seasons in like an afternoon if you really wanted to. I like this show, but I do have some issues with the 3rd season for sure. And I might actually this might be one of the things I pick up, actually. Of all the things we've seen, there are a couple things, and this is definitely going to be up there.
Well, some thoughts. It'll probably go down in price, but the Amazon pre-order for it now, which is early, granted, this is not coming until July, the price will come down slightly probably. It's $85 for 3 seasons, which is a bit high.
Boy.
But I got to admit, like, this is one of those things where it feels like, hey, a streaming service is putting something out that they normally never do. I'm not going to say buy it to support it, to say, hey, we want to, speak with our wallets, but I hope that it does well and we get more of these. That could be a good sign for that. I also know that the whole soccer show thing has been kind of big, and so that could have dethroned it a little bit. I know Welcome to Wrexham, Ryan Reynolds and
great
Robert
show.
McElhenney, whatever, came on. Have
you seen it?
I've not seen it, but I've heard great things.
It's great. I mean, look, I'm a huge fan of football, soccer, wherever you are in the world. I enjoy soccer, football a lot. I watch Champions League on the weekends when I can on Peacock because it's streaming on Peacock, which is really easy for us in the States. And I get it. I mean, this is a movie show. I know a lot of people kind of siloize their things, and you can't like movies and you can't like sports and sports ball. It's like, whatever, fine. I mean, we could do that, or we could just say I like movies and I like sports. Like, there is a middle ground here. I'm actually curious, to your point, if this is a trend that if it is successful, if Apple will release something like Severance, which I know people are huge fans of. I have never seen it, but I know it's another one of those Apple TV things that kind of made waves.
Right. And Nicomedes says, I bet it's $60 when it ships. And honestly, $60 feels right.
$20 a season?
Yeah, that is exactly what I was thinking. $20 a season, that would be great. Brian says maybe Apple will release Severance. I really hope so. Nicomedes, Chris, do you like Aussie rules football?
Never seen it. If it's something I should check out, point me in the direction you want me to go.
All right. Yeah.
$85, man. That's mighty rich.
Although, again, it's the Amazon pre-order, and that price always goes down. It's just a matter of how far will it go down. And then the scary thing, I know that I don't want to re-bring up what we kind of litigated last year, but I do want to point out that when Best Buy announced that they were going to no longer be doing physical media, one of the things I said, the only reason we get price matching on Amazon is because of other retailers doing lower prices. And so something like this, if no one else is selling the Ted Lasso series, they don't have a reason to come down from $85. They can sell it for $85.
I'm going to level with you here. I wouldn't be surprised if it stays at $85 because it's Apple. Like, again, I'm sitting here with my iPhone.
It's Warner Brothers.
I know, but you know what I mean? Like, in terms of just like, this is the big corpos doing their thing here.
Right.
So.
Celeste is asking, does this bode well for Killers of the Flower Moon and Criterion? I don't believe so, because I believe that was a co-production with a completely different company. So until we see some precedents for that, we shall see.
I'm glad that this one came up, because Ted Lasso, again, I'm curious how this show will go down, like how it will age, because I know that there's going to be more Ted Lasso stuff in the future. They've alluded to it, but again, there are few shows as well written in terms of, and I think here, I mean, again, not to get all, not political, but socially kind of introspective. It's also a very good show at kind of bringing down and tearing down toxic masculinity and showing another way to conduct yourself, especially on a sports team where masculinity is running at a all-time high, dude. So yeah, like, again, I will never miss an opportunity to preach about a show that takes its time to actually try to do something different and good for, I think, people watching it. So yeah, Ted Lasso's a good one.
I'm eager to see it. This might be the only way I ever see it, because I don't have Apple TV.
Fair.
Next up, we got some Radiance announcements yesterday, I think. This first one, August 26th on Blu-ray in the UK, and then August 27th on Blu-ray in the US and Canada. It is Viva la Muerte. This is from 1971. Says, as the Spanish Civil War draws to a close, Fondo, a young boy, is tormented by violently conflicting feelings towards his mother, who he suspects may have had a role in his father's capture by fascists, feelings that manifest themselves as a nightmare onslaught of terrifying and bizarre imagery. Based on Fernando Arabal's own brutal experiences during the Civil War, Viva la Muerte is a shockingly provocative work of surrealist cinema from the artist and filmmaker who co-founded the Panic Movement Collective alongside Jodorowsky. This is going to have a 4K restoration and a whole bunch of wonderful conversations, including an audio discussion from the Projection Booth podcast with Mike White, Heather Drain, and Jess Byard.
Hell yeah. All three of those names will be on Film Foundations. Literally, one of them in 24 hours from now. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Those three people alone should motivate you to buy this. Just so everybody here is aware. It's not just Mike. It's not just Heather. It's not just Jess. All three of them are amazing. But together, I can only imagine.
Yeah. We've got some documentaries, archival and new on this, and then a booklet with some new writing on it. Again, limited to 3,000 titles, and looks and sounds amazing. Brendan says, this is one of my top 5 Blu-ray wishlist films. It's a masterpiece. Amazing.
What's funny is I actually remember when Jess told me about going to do this recording. Because this would have been like last year. I think last year. Yeah. Last year, maybe the year before when they recorded it. And I remember. I didn't realize it was for a Blu-ray. That's amazing.
I love it. Going into that slate with them. Same day. This is coming in the UK and the US again. This is Tokajiro, and this has the subtitle of Lone Yakuza. This is from 1966. I just want to point out too, including that last one and this one, I still say Radiance has some of the most beautiful cover art in the game. Like, these are just astonishing to look at. They are beautiful.
No pun intended, but they're killing it.
Yeah. This one looks to be a great release. We got an interview with film critic Kushi Ueno about the film's place in genre cinema history, visual essay on the star of this movie. We've got some new subtitle translations, and then a booklet, of course, with some new writing and some archival writing on this. Thanks, Ronnie. Yeah. This is like perfect cover art. Their next one, this is really great too, and we get to see a little more of it because we get the box set here. This one is coming in the UK only on August 26th, and this is World Noir Volume 2, and we get some movies in here, including Black Gravel and Symphony for a Massacre. Cruel Gun Story is the final title, and there are tons of extras on here. Again, I just shortened this because there are so many. These Radiance box set releases are just overwhelming with extra features, and they are incredible releases. Highly recommended if you are into any of these things. Nicomedes says, these are 3 Stone Cold classics, and my film historian daddy Tony Raines is on it. Already ordered.
Film daddy. Film historian daddy. I like that.
And then they also announced from their hosted label Raro Video, the Italian Connection. This came out in the Fernando De Leo box set in the US like a decade ago. But this is going to come with a 2020 4K restoration, so this will look much better than that other Blu-ray. It is going to have a new visual essay by Howard S. Berger, friend of the channel, on there. It's going to have an archival documentary and some reversible artwork, and then a booklet, of course. But the big thing, I did want to point out, Raro's authoring and their discs have kind of been lower quality in the U.S. Got confirmation from Fran at Radiance that they are using Fidelity in Motion for all of the authoring on their discs, which is a massive step up for them. These are going to look much, much, much better than the U.S. counterpart if you have those old releases. And if I'm not saying, you need to rebuy all of them, but if you love those movies and you really would love to see it in a better presentation, and then they put it out in the UK, that's going to be the best release of that film, no doubt, at the moment. Hilton says, all 3 World Noir films have good releases out here in the States already. Not really surprising. Yeah, they are picking up some UK licensing that we just already had for years in the States. They're just doing some different things with the features and the packaging, and it's Radiance, so it's going to be done very well. Man, lots of comments right now. Yeah, this is a big deal too. I was about to bring this up after all the announcements tonight, but maybe we could talk about this for a second. Stan is bringing up that just today it was announced that the Fred Meyer grocery chain and GameStop have announced that they're going to be carrying 4Ks, Blu-rays, and DVDs. GameStop's going to be selling them online as well, and that's kind of a huge deal to be able to pick up some of that slack that's been lost by Best Buy, and Target is limiting some of their sales. But GameStop, it is going to be starting at like 200 or 150 physical stores. Fred Meyer is going to be at literally every single one, starting with Dune 2. So this is kind of a big deal. Physical media is doing so well that it's coming back into some of these smaller chain stores. Any thoughts, Chris?
I mean, you want me to be honest? I mean,
Yeah.
fuck GameStop, man. I mean, I don't like GameStop for a whole host of reasons. It's funny that they're trying to see, I mean, it's not just me. I mean, GameStop has not done a lot to, what's the word? Instill faith in the people who purchase from them or the people who work there or anybody, right. I guess. So I honestly, it feels like all it feels like for GameStop is them attempting to give people a reason to come and buy things from them as they continue to circle a very slow moving drain, I guess. I don't know. GameStop's weird. If you play video games or you're a gamer, GameStop is a Funko Pop store now. Holy hell.
I mean, there's literally a movie about GameStop called Dumb Money. So
yeah, but it's less about GameStop specifically
Yes.
and more about ding dongs gaming the GameStop stock. But to DC, I'm not even gonna try to say it. Sibner, it is the devil. I mean, it is like it's they are bad at what they do, and they're kind of the only ones left, which sucks for all of us. Because at this point, you're going to go buy a used game at GameStop or a local used game store. And those used game stores tend to have Blu-rays and 4Ks and all kinds of stuff. So if they sold used movies, I actually think that would be the best case, but then it's not GameStop anymore. It's Movie Trading Co. It's, vintage stock. And that's the thing. I mean, GameStop at this point is having to do this to compete with those stores and pick up the slack, like you said, where Best Buy isn't doing anything anymore.
It's not a ruckus, Stan. You brought up a good point, and I was going to mention it anyways. It is something that is important, and not only, again, it's not necessarily for, hey, we all get another place to be able to see it, is legitimately because people that are not in the scene will have more opportunities to stumble across it.
Literally those normies, Celeste puts it best. It's the normies that it's for, really, right? Like, oh, I'm at GameStop buying Call of Duty, whatever the fuck at this point. And oh, there's Dune 2. I'll pick that up because why not? Or you know what they'll probably do? Like all kinds of stuff. Like they'll do all kinds of things. They'll probably have like sales and stuff, even all kinds of wild stuff to try to move them out the door faster too. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's weird times we're living in.
All right, moving right along. We are pretty close to the end now. July 29th in the UK, we are getting a 4K Steelbook and then a standard Blu-ray release from Studio Canal of the Terrence Young film Red Sun from 1971. This is the standard blue, and then this is the art on the Steelbook. This is, of course, a Bronson film. You've got Ursula Andress on here, or as a lot of people call her, Ursula Undress. Toshiro Mifune is in this, and then Alain Delon. Some major names in this. And as far as I can tell, I don't believe this has ever got a blue release in the States. So this is a pretty big deal, and this is going to be coming as part of the Cult Classics line. If you buy that standard, it will match some of the art on your older titles. We got a new interview with Steven Okazaki on this, and then some archival features for collectible cards. I'm actually very interested to see this.
It's a great movie. We covered it on the Culture Cast 2 years ago. Yeah, I was going to ask, is that what this is? Are you just doing that every time? I had a band teacher that would say number 9 4 times every time he would ask someone to do number 9 because of the Beatles. And I never got it until way later. I was like, is that what you're doing here? Like, are you, I mean, I can't do Kermit. I don't know if you can, but
I cannot
like,
do Kermit.
Is he just doing a Muppets thing? Is he just enjoying it? Because that's what it felt like to me.
I mean, that's a part of it. I can't argue.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, man. Can I? Someone else kind of echoed it in the comments. Can I just say that it's a real fucking drag that Hastings, Hastings and oh god, what was the other one? There was another like video game store that went by the wayside, but like Hastings and all those other stores disappearing. It's now we just got GameStop. Like, man, what a raw fucking deal we've been given here. Because GameStop is the worst. It really is. So, no, I want the Serbian film Funko Pop collection. Holy shit! Give me that one, please. I want to have those on my shelf so I can show people my full collection. I got all of them, including the Chase.
Anyways, July 16th, Wellgo is releasing The Last Stop in Yuma County. This is some names I did not know were in this. Are in this. Barbara Crampton's in this. Richard Brake is in this. And then Jim Cummings is the big one. He came onto the scene a few years ago, has made some pretty good movies. And the only thing I got to say is this cover art looks like a direct ripoff of that BJ Novak film from a couple years ago or last year that came out. It's literally almost identical, and it's wild that we are still going with this floating heads type of poster art for some of these movies. But what's funny, we have this announcement as it's coming on Blu-ray on July 16th. This hits theaters tomorrow. This has not even been released yet. Yes, Vengeance is the title. Thanks, Sibiner.
And Electronics Boutique EB Games was the one I was thinking of that got absorbed into GameStop.
Yeah.
God, EB Games, man. KB Toys, you guys remember that place? Like, so many of the places are just gone now, just replaced by GameStop. Like,
I lived at KB Toys.
Yeah, same, man. KB Toys was the shit. You can get McFarlane's Movie Maniacs there, all kinds of fun stuff, man. Back in the day when those were things people bought.
Jim Cummings is really great. I'm very interested to see this. Just, man, the poster art. We got to get away from this style. I swear.
At least it's not like a guy with his back turned, looking over his shoulder. That's another one.
Yeah.
It's been done like a million times.
Purple Rain. This is
little known film, Purple Rain.
Little known indie, coming on June 25th on 4K in the US. We talked about this last week or the week before for the UK release. As far as I can tell, there will be no Steelbook release in the States, probably. This is going to be coming with this slipcover art and no new features. We got a commentary and 8 music videos, and then the First Avenue Road to Pop Royalty featurette on here. But the big thing, there's no mention of Dolby Atmos on the back of this, which I know a lot of people were really hoping to get, but unfortunately, it looks like they are not doing it.
This is what it sounds like when big labels don't try, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's an amazing movie, but some music videos and you watch on YouTube, like, guys, what the fuck? I mean, look, I know Prince has passed away, so, but Morris Day and the Time haven't. Get Morris Day and the Time in there to do a commentary.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next up, July 23rd, 4K Steelbook from Warner Brothers for Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. I've not seen any of these. I've not been able to keep up with the DC animation. They've been doing more and more and more of these.
Yeah, man. It's really crazy how successful their animated movies have been compared to like a lot of the other stuff. Because this is the Part 3.
Yeah. Like within a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're already out there, Sibner. We talked about, I believe, both of them on the show, but at least one of them.
And is this the one where is this the one with Jensen Ackles as Batman?
Yes.
Man, Jensen Ackles, baby.
Yep.
He's great. He's good looking too, but also, great actor.
June 4th. Neon and Decal are working together to put out La Chimera from 2023. But as you can tell from the picture, it is probably going to be a BDR. Sibner is about to comment in the chat about how everybody needs to stay away from Decal. I'm assuming. So just go ahead and fill that out there, Daniel. Yeah, I've heard good things about this movie, but it's odd to give a prestige type of film from the last couple of years just a BDR release. I mean, I kind of get it on the business side because it probably will not sell super well for them, but you got to give at least a little respect to the modern movie that you're putting out there. Come on. It's so loud.
I have nothing to say to that. I'll just point out my bisexual flag in the background and we can just move on. I'm waving it for everybody here. Yeah. It's just in the background, y'all.
This one, I don't see any extras coming on this either, unfortunately. So if you really wanted this, maybe there'll be a better release elsewhere. Then, hey, a little short video to play while I talk about this. The Physical Media Advocate is available at CD Trader in Los Angeles.
You're welcome.
Just wanted to highlight a couple places you can get this now. CD Trader in Tarzana, just outside of LA. You can get this at Scarecrow Video in Seattle. Of course, at Legends in Granby, Massachusetts. I've already got 2 other stores that have ordered. I will be talking about those soon. But yeah, this is a big deal. It's starting to show up kind of everywhere. So if you are close to any of these, please go check it out. Check out the store. And on that note, if you are an owner or part of another store or frequent another local store and you would like to see it show up in your local retail joint, let me know. Ask them to reach out to me. My email is in all of the videos. You've got it in the description below. I'd love to get this out to as many stores as possible.
And I'm in this one.
You are, yeah.
I sure am. I'm in a couple of them, but this is this is the island one, yeah. Yeah, baby. Not Bollywood Cinema Club for once. Something different. And I love the cover. The cover's just the cover slaps, as they would say.
The cover's great.
The cover's great.
Just today, we got an announcement that Kino is releasing Cannibal Apocalypse with John Saxon on 4K on July 16th as part of the Kino cult line. I do admit, and I don't want to like poo-poo this brand new announcement too much. It's an SDR master, so it's not going to have any HDR, and there's no new features on this. So if you've got that old Blu-ray disc, I don't know if this is going to be a giant upgrade. I know a lot of people love this movie, so you still may want the 4K disc, but I hope this does well. But yeah, I think I've got the Blu-ray, and that's probably enough for me on this one.
I love John Saxon, though.
Who doesn't? I mean, that's a good question. Only a few left. The first one. This is just a wholesome comment portion of the show tonight. Unearthed is finally releasing the Profane exhibit from 2013 that they have been teasing and talking about literally for going on, I think, 5 years, maybe 6 years. This is coming on Blu-ray in September, like I said. This will have all of the segments that it needed. And then for bonuses, they've got an audio commentary by Michael Todd Schneider and the producer Amanda Manuel. And Art Edinger is also on it. There's some interviews with some of the directors on these. Mini documentary called 10 Years Later by Marion Dora. And you can pre-order this now. It's available on Amazon.
Boy, this looks like a wild, right? Is this a wild? Have you? No, has this movie been out? Like,
it's done a festival run recently, and it played some places in 2013, but it has not been seen by many people. No.
So it's like Kilroy was here, is what you're saying?
Kind of, but I would say slightly more seen than that. Even
it actually exists, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
By the way, if any of you in the chat have seen Kilroy was here because you own an NFT of it, please let us know because we'd love to watch it. Genuinely, this is a conversation that's been ongoing for months now between the two of us.
KB spilling the beans that Sibner is going to be on the conversation. Look for that on KB's channel pretty soon. I think, is it Monday? Is that when? Did I just read that right? I'm excited to watch that. Next up, Doctor Who Tom Baker Complete Season 4 from 1977 and 78 is coming out on Blue on July 9th. Are you a Doctor Who person?
Yeah. I like Doctor Who a fair amount. I watched a first couple episodes of the Peter Capaldi run, and then I fell off after that. But my wife and I actually went, 2013 to Comic-Con in New Orleans to meet Matt Smith. And then I actually got to meet Peter Capaldi at Comic-Con in Dallas. So yeah, I'm probably like a lapsed Doctor Who fan, but yeah, Doctor Who's great. I mean, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, they cast really good people as the leads. They have great writers on the show. Doctor Who's also eminently more accessible now.
Yeah.
Because it's on Disney Plus. So yeah, I enjoy Doctor Who, but like I said, I'm a little bit of a lapsed Doctor Who fan. But I'm looking for a reason to get back into it. So
nice.
What about you? Are you a Doctor Who guy?
I've never watched even 5 minutes of it. So
I don't know. I don't know if you would like it.
Again, I'm not super into fantasy stuff.
No, he doesn't like Die Hard, Celeste, and I just found that out like 2 days ago myself. So
listen,
yeah. We're gonna listen. Go right ahead, man. We're not having the is it a Christmas movie conversation or not. It's does Ryan like it or not?
No. Again, what I will say is it is massively overrated. I don't get the it's one of the best movies of all time conversation. It's a well-made movie. I don't get how it's worshipped by so many people. That's the main thing.
That's fair. I mean, I do think it's a perfect action movie, but I understand where you're coming from.
That's it. Like, I like it. I don't have any reason to say that it's bad. I don't have any whatever. I just think it is massively overrated.
Well, that I will agree with. I mean, I think it's overrated because of the amount of I don't know. It's the conversation around it has become a little bit I don't know. It's like Olympus has fallen. I mean, I don't understand. Well, the propaganda of it all. I mean, sure, I get that. Look, I mean, that's a now thing though. Like you know how much propaganda I watch? Like I watch Barney Miller and Columbo. Like are those not propaganda? Like they kind of are. I mean, look, I get it. If Die Hard's not your thing, it's not your thing. That's not my hill to die on. There are people who will die on that hill, brother. It's not mine.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. I will say it's very much not for me.
Actually, you know what? Here, I'll say something that I think is a better way of putting it. It has a great villain in it. Alan Rickman is great in the movie. But Alan Rickman's great in everything. Someone mentioned Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is a movie that didn't get enough love when it came out. Also has Alan Rickman in it, playing the depressed robot. Yeah. I get it. I understand the sentiment towards Die Hard now, given that I feel like I don't know. Oh boy, I'll wade into that one. Hey, I don't like Tarantino either, so there you go. If Dodson's still here, I got your back, buddy. Me and you, baby, we got this. Yes, Marvin the Paranoid Android. That was that. Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. By the way, that is a movie that I feel like should be. Speaking of things that are underseen, that movie got like railroaded when it came out, and I don't think it's bad at all. Celeste, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, he eats donuts and he's fat, okay? He likes to eat Twinkies, and he buys them for his pregnant wife. That's what he says, okay? Hey, look, speaking of things we talked about recently, Alan Rickman and Dogma.
Last announcement. Mars Express is coming on June 18th on Blu-ray from Shout with G-Kids working on it with them. This is a movie that's supposed to be pretty good. I got some pretty decent comments on this one. I'm not seeing much on this, but it's supposed to be a good film.
Heard nothing about it.
That's all we got. That's that one's from 2023, by the way, if you were listening on the podcast. Now we always go over what is coming out next week, just in case you have forgotten or are interested in it. Next week, Chris's favorite Dune Part 2 coming on 4K and Blu-ray.
I liked it a lot more than the first one. If you go listen to that podcast, we defended it a lot more than we defended the first one.
Once Upon a Time in the West 4K coming from Paramount Presents. Killer Clowns from Outer Space 4K releasing next week. Peeping Tom 4K from Criterion. American Sniper, speaking of propaganda.
Good Lord, speaking of... so, let's just all agree that that's propaganda and we can avoid it.
Yeah, that's coming out in 4K Steelbook next week. The Nun Story from Warner Archive. Orphan from Scream Factory. Friendly Persuasion from Warner Archive. Vitagraph Comedies from Kino. Dracula 2000.
Hell, speaking of Gerard Butler, baby. G-Butts over here.
Another Blu-ray release, that one from Scream Factory. Submarine Command from Kino. You're a Big Boy Now from Warner Archive. 12 Strong coming in a 4K release. Anyways.
Whoa.
Mike 4K.
What the? Wow, you're just dragging Chris Hemsworth. He just wants to make a fun action movie that's stupid. What's wrong with that?
Magic Mike 4K from Soderbergh, speaking of. That's coming out next week. Imaginary getting a Blu-ray release only in the States next week. Thunder in the East from Kino. One Life with Sir Anthony Hopkins. Some of these Walmart exclusive steelbooks coming out. Lair of the White Worm, The Gate.
Hell yeah.
Whole bunch of anime. Countdown to Esmeralda Bay coming from Full Moon next week.
Now, you didn't mention the American Society of Magical Negroes, which is a great movie.
Are you just actually saying it's great? Because I know that one got panned like crazy.
I mean, I like the concept. I mean, again, execution is one thing, but the concept is at least clever. High concept stuff doesn't necessarily always work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I like the people in it.
I mean, Jeffrey Wright, right? Like,
yeah. Any of these sticking out to you?
Never seen Gravity.
Never seen Gravity.
Still haven't seen it. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad Dune is getting these big releases. I mean, that's good for the film industry in general.
Yeah.
My feelings on it are unimportant in terms of the amount of money that it made. And look, the company, the podcast production network is Weirding Way Media. So
it's got to mean something.
Well, I mean, we like Dune, so.
Sibner is asking about the audio on Gravity. And from what I'm seeing, it's got Dolby Atmos, Dolby 7.1, and that's it for the English. And there's also English Dolby Digital 5.1. And they say they have the silent space version. Is that the advanced audio one? I'm not sure.
How did we miss Killer Clowns, bro?
I mean, I said it out loud.
I mean, yeah, we could talk about it for an hour, though. You want to just make this a Killer Clowns cast with a K? Ooh, let's not do that.
I mean, Killer Clowns is the cover of the Physical Media Advocate issue 9 for a reason. It's
Hell yeah.
It's a big title people have wanted for a while. It's been out of print on Blu-ray for a bit, so this is a pretty big deal. Oh, and Jeffrey Wright is not in that movie.
Yeah, I was getting it confused with American Fiction, which, I mean, if you haven't seen that one, American Fiction is also a well-cast movie. Yeah, that's why I was getting confused. It's David Alan Grier with a... I mean, look, what's with David Alan Grier, too, man? He's in things now, too. I love David Alan Grier. I mean...
He's always been great.
I mean, in Living Color.
He's been great in everything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the cast, because there was somebody else that was supposed to be in this. Nicole Byer's in it. God, I could have swore... I must be thinking of a different movie, I think. Oh, well. Yeah.
Justice Smith is in American Society of Magical Negroes.
I don't know who Justice Smith is.
He was in Detective Pikachu. He was in that second Jurassic Park movie.
Still haven't seen either of those, actually.
Dominion. No. Fallen Kingdom. Whatever the hell that second one's called. Less said about those movies, the better, frankly. Sorry. I mean, they've already made it clear that they didn't even really care about those movies because they're just making more Jurassic Park movies with somebody else now, so.
All right. That's it for announcements and for what's coming out next week, which means it's time for our live episode of Film Foundation.
Can I mention one thing, though, that we didn't talk about that was a big announcement today that I know other people in the comments will want to talk about or at least chime in on?
Yeah.
We are getting more Lord of the Rings movies.
It's wild. Yeah.
And on top of everything else, it's directed by motherfucking Andy Serkis, who one of my friends on my Facebook, when I posted about it, they were like, he's just trying to win that Oscar for a CGI actor. You're right. He fucking is. And he should have won it. He should have won it for that last Planet of the Apes movie, but he didn't win it there. So there's a high percentage chance that this movie pushes that in the right direction. But holy cow. Holy cow, holy cow. More Lord of the Rings movies with Peter Jackson and Philippa Boyens and Fran Jackson all like involved too. So it's crazy. Crazy time. I mean, the TV show being announced was crazy, but now a like live action movie, like holy cow, guys. Yeah. I love Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is amazing. He does not get enough credit for his mocap abilities and just him being an actor and a director. We were talking about this earlier. He directed that second Venom movie, which I enjoyed a fair amount. It's a silly movie, but it's a fun, silly movie. Yeah, and if anybody's curious, if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings extended and remastered will be in theaters in June of this year. And I'm going to throw this out there. First Hobbit movie's not bad. Second Hobbit movie's okay. Third Hobbit movie, oh. I mean, look, the best part about those Hobbit movies was casting Martin Freeman as Bilbo. He's so good as Bilbo. Like, he's so good as Bilbo. He's kind of one of the best things of all of the Lord of the Rings. And as far as I'm concerned, that might be a hot take, but if you don't at least find Martin Freeman charming as Bilbo, and that can carry you through the first movie, the first movie's fine. Beyond that is just the second and third ones are just like a CGI fuckfest.
I've not seen any of the Hobbit films yet.
I mean, again, they're fine, but the more you watch them, the less quality they are. It's gonna be a prequel, Sibner, by the way. It's gonna take place in between. Well, I guess it's gonna flesh out all the story from before the first movie, where they talk about it in the book. They're looking for Gollum, so I'm excited. I'm personally very excited, but also with a little bit of trepidation, given comments talking about the Hobbit movies. Given I've seen the Hobbit movies in theaters, so.
All right. Are we ready for an episode of Film Foundations attached to an episode of Reconnected?
Yeah, we're going to do this live for everybody. And then we won't release this for months.
But it'll be great, and we'll all remember it as it comes out. So we are going to go through everything, and so everybody can understand, just in case you haven't heard any of the first two episodes of Film Foundations, we're going to be very explanatory as we're going through here of the format and how we're doing everything, and going to do an actual intro like it's a full episode and everything. So if you got questions and if you got opinions, we definitely want to hear this as we go through. So we are going to start the episode and go from here. So hello, everyone. Welcome back to Film Foundations, the collaborative show between Weirding Way Media and Someone's Favorite Productions. I am your co-host, Ryan Verrill from the Disc Connected and Someone's Favorite Productions.
And I'm your other ho-host, boy.
Ho-host.
Ho-host. I am your other co-host, Chris Stachiw from Weirding Way Media and the Culture Cast and various other terrible opinions people think I have on the internet about movies.
On this show, we will be asking and answering 4 questions about a given topic that is surrounding either an actor, director, microgenre, or like tonight's topic, a franchise. Tonight we are discussing all of the Batman films. Our job is to entice you to broaden your horizons on film, encourage you to travel down film tangents and side roads that you may have never traveled down otherwise. And Batman's interesting because there's so many different eras. There's so many different actors that have played him. This is one of those things where we started the show to introduce people to things they likely have never seen any of. But with this, I think it's very easy to have only seen like one iteration of Batman and never even heard a lot of discourse on the others because they've kind of been talked about so many times in the past that people don't talk about them very much anymore. So we're going to do like a light intro to some of these. We're going to discuss them, going to talk about some of the history. And on that front, Chris, what's your history with Batman?
I think for me, Batman is up there, if not for me, one of my favorite superheroes. I mean, this conversation comes up a lot in terms of the MCU or DC and where you come down on it. I think the MCU has, I think that the MCU and the DC, DC and Marvel, however you want to talk about it, just the comic books themselves. That tribalization that we see now has kind of always been around, but I think Batman was holding up superhero stuff along with Superman for so long, and then Marvel took that from them in 2008 with Iron Man, and have been doing it better since then in terms of the ability to craft a believable world. I mean, look, Marvel has kind of fallen off too because they dug too deep, to quote Lord of the Rings. But I love Batman. I mean, Batman is my favorite superhero. I mean, there's people in the your mom's saying it. I mean, it's true. Batman is a lot of people's favorite.
I was very fortunate to grow up in the early 90s and having the Tim Burton films accompanied by Batman the Animated Series is a magical way to start a fascination with a character like Batman.
Almost got him, baby. That's like fucking amazing, that episode of the show.
Yeah, this is going to be special because Batman's kind of been there for a long time. Obviously, I look at Batman as somebody that I love because I've always been fascinated with mysteries and detectives. And so things like your Columbo, like we were talking about earlier, or your Hardy Boys, or your Nancy Drew, or Encyclopedia Brown. I loved that shit as a kid. And so many of the Batman movies and the Batman TV show, especially like the animated ones that they've been able to really flesh out some of these characters with, I've just truly loved the way that they've given some of that detective feel. And I think finally they nailed that with the Matt Reeves Batman. It finally feels like an actual detective character. But every iteration has a lot of high points. There's definitely some low points in there as well. This all truly starts because of comic books, obviously way back in the 30s with Detective Comics, and that leads to literally DC. That's where we get DC from. But we really have to kind of start this with the overarching TV show with Adam West and Burt Ward from the 60s, which I loved it. It is so campy and silly and so fun, and it's such an interesting thing to look at because so many people nowadays look at it as it's only silly and it's just let's laugh at this, but like it's so pure camp when you watch it in the style of let's make this a comic book show. That's exactly how they went in on it, and it works. I mean, Adam West running with the giant bomb off of a pier is fucking hilarious in all of the best ways. I really wish people would watch it and give it some more appreciation because so many people just haven't seen it.
And Adam West was almost cast as James Bond because of how good he was as Batman. So that's also a weird piece of trivia from the time. No, Batman 66 is it's I don't know, man. Like, I'm with you. Like, I could totally get someone watching it today and being like, what the fuck am I watching? But it's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's funny too, as Stan kind of points out. It's very funny, and that is a thing that I wouldn't say people necessarily now know Batman for being funny.
Right.
So I get it, and that's the thing. One of the movies we're going to talk about, I contend, is actually an attempt to recapture the tone of '66 Batman, but let's just say people didn't want that. People didn't know how to deal with it. People weren't sure how to receive it, and you may know what I'm alluding to. I'll talk about it when we get to it. But yeah, Batman, and I saw it in the comments too, which I do want to address. The usage of Batman has always been very interesting because, to some of the comments' points, Batman is sometimes a superhero. Batman is sometimes a detective. And for me, and I would agree with the comments, I think Batman works best when he's embracing the detective side of it, because the superhero side of it is when all of a sudden things start to blow up and we get these like big world issues like Justice or Crisis on Infinite Earths, stuff like that, which are these, big world involved things where Superman's there and Wonder Woman's there and the Justice League is there. So yeah, like it's weird because Batman, again, for all intents and purposes, is a detective character. But then he is injected into these bigger stories and he kind of loses the detective part of it. And some of the movies do the same thing to great or lesser effect as well. So Batman's weird.
My wish for Batman the entire time, I just wish that somebody took Batman and took some of the smaller comics that are beloved by people and make a standalone, single-run Batman live-action movie out of it that people can appreciate because it has an incredible story. I mean, give us, like, the Court of Owls run would be incredible to see in a live-action film. Hush would be incredible to see in a live-action film.
It would have to be 3 movies, but Hush would be like... Or the Batman, the Elseworlds Batman, like Vampire Batman. Good, give me that. Fucking inject that shit into my veins, man.
I showed Long Halloween earlier. It would be incredible to see a proper live action Long Halloween done.
Yeah.
Like with enough money to put into it that they're not expecting a franchise, but just let's make a good movie. Like that would be incredible.
Yeah. No, and again, Stan's point about the character being incredibly elastic, he is. And that's what makes Batman such an interesting character because you can take him all over the place. And you can make him into what you want. You can take away certain things. And I'm not saying all characters like that in comic books aren't incredibly elastic, as Stan mentioned, but Batman seems to move within genres very easily compared to some of the other ones. I mean, you don't see like a superhero. Well, I guess there's Superman versus Alien, Superman versus Predator, but those always felt weird. Like Batman versus Alien that comic is certifiably fucking insane. And if you've never read it, you should go check it out. And then they did, I think, at least 1 more, possibly 2 more. But in the second one, they start breeding the aliens with DNA from the rogues gallery of Batman's people. So there's like a Joker alien and a Two-Face alien. And it's ridiculous. But again, it works because Batman, I think, has always been not horror adjacent, but because of what you expect from his stories, it always feels like the horror world is always just touching Batman because of Killer Croc, because of Scarecrow, because his villains are monsters for the most part. Like a lot of them are literally monsters. So yeah, I love Batman.
After Batman 66 and the TV show, we had a bit of a break. It wasn't until 1989 that we got Tim Burton's Batman, and it completely really busted open the whole superhero thing in a way that was super accessible for everybody. Incredible cast. Nicholson is great. DeVito is amazing. The really important thing though is because it's Burton, you get a character in Gotham. It feels like Gotham. And then of course you get Keaton as Batman, which is the iconic thing. A lot of us grew up on Keaton playing Batman. How do you feel about Burton's Batman?
I reserve my answer for later.
Ah,
See, that's the thing, though. Like, here's the thing that gets lost in the conversation. Go back and look at the reception to Michael Keaton being cast as Batman. People went fucking nuts, and I'm not saying they were happy. It was like the backlash of backlashes. People were writing into Starlog about how pissed off they were that Michael Keaton, a short guy, was cast as Batman. I mean, yeah, it's insanity for how good those movies end up being. Yeah, Batman 1989, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but it might be an answer here.
DeVito wasn't in that first one. I know I brought him up. He is in the next one, which was also directed by Tim Burton. That's Batman Returns, and then we get Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman in that one, which did fairly well. And then, of course, just logically, that has to lead to Batman Forever, which a lot of people are very used to throwing darts at because they don't love it very much. Not quite as bad as Batman and Robin, but yeah, a lot of people hated these. These are the ones that I grew up on. I watched these probably more than any of these other Batman movies because I was the right age. I was like 10 years old when these were coming out, and just loved seeing the character I loved on the big screen and seeing it played in a movie like that. And then, of course, around this time, because of the animated series, we also get the animated masterpiece, in my opinion, of Batman: Mask of Phantasm.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Batman Forever is fucking great. Like, I get it. I get that people don't vibe with it, but it came out in the 90s, yo. And you know what? Actually, the best thing about Batman Forever is the story that Jim Carrey tells about how much Tommy Lee Jones hates him, which I do. I forget what I don't tolerate your tomfoolery or whatever, something to that effect. And it's like, oh man, this must have been a weird set. But hey, speaking of dodging a bullet with Bill Murray not being cast in '89's Batman, talk about dodging a bullet with Billy Baldwin being Batman Forever's Batman. Good night. I don't dislike Batman Forever. I get it, though. I get the dislike. But to your point, I was the right age. I was like 5 years old when it came out. They had toys at McDonald's.
Right.
They had those cups at McDonald's, those glass cups at McDonald's. Yeah, Batman was inescapable in the 90s.
I will say the 90s was Batman. Like, it was the decade of Batman for sure. And then because those were like, I mean, obviously they started great and then waned by the end. We got no Batman for a little while again. It's another 8-year break, and then Christopher frickin' Nolan comes in and makes a trilogy of Batman films with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. There are countless people that look at The Dark Knight as literally the quintessential comic book movie, which I know that we're going to be getting into in a little while because I know at least one of us disagrees with that. And of course, around all of this, Christopher Nolan is not known for a franchise type of film like this. So this was an odd time for him and odd time for fans of his. I still think it's interesting that he made a couple of these, but I mean, his best movie was made during that period, but it wasn't one of those movies. I still think he should have stayed a little bit away. But then we get the brand new DCEU stuff. We get Batman versus Superman, Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League version where they changed it up. And then he was just in The Flash last year.
Wait. Zack Snyder's Justice League is where they turned the movie that was 2 hours into 4 hours. That's what they did. And I watched the whole damn thing and did a live stream about it. And then I had comments on my iTunes about how I'm a hater for Batman versus Superman, just whatever. Zack Snyder, you know what? Good for you that people are willing to go out on a ledge for you on the internet and are willing to make their opinions so well known that they're going to walk around and scream Snyder cut now. But God, insufferable bullshit, frankly. Like, I'm sorry. It started an uncomfortable trend of things that I don't really like. And I think you would agree, which is pandering and allowing people to do things that's like, the world is not better off with or without this. It doesn't really matter. And yeah, The Prestige, I think, Nolan peaked early, baby. Prestige is an amazing, look, Ryan already alluded to it. I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Nolan, but The Prestige, how could you not love that movie, really?
It's his best film, by far.
Agreed. And to Paul's point, the 4-hour Justice League is somehow actually better than the 2-hour Justice League.
The last thing that we can really talk about, we did get a brand new Matt Reeves directed Batman in March of 2022. There is a second one coming in October of 2026. Currently, that's when it's dated. That's a long wait, first of all. And then also, I guess technically in Joker, Bruce Wayne is mentioned and hinted at, but it's not a Batman movie in any way. But those are the theatrical Batmans that we've gotten throughout the years. And it's been such an up and down ride for a lot of people that a lot of people have checked out. And so that's kind of why we wanted to talk about it. I feel like it's a good one for the chat to step in here. So we're going to get into our questions. The first question on Film Foundations is always, what do you consider the foundational title for our topic tonight, which is Batman? And so essentially, what do you think, if somebody has never seen any Batman movie, what do you think is the first one that they should watch, Chris?
Wow, you're just going to put me on the spot, eh?
On the spot, let's do it.
Yeah, I deserve it. I mean, because, I don't know. Again, this is polarizing. But, I'm going to go with Batman 1989 all the way. And you know what? I've never seen Batman Returns. It's on my list of things to watch. I'm watching it later this year in September. For You've Never Seen September. So we're finally getting around to it. I am. But man, Michael Keaton is Batman. He's amazing. Jack Nicholson's amazing. Everything about the movie is well thought out. I mean, they had the right director at the right time, doing the right thing, making the kind of movie that needed to come out then. But at the same time, it's a starting place for Batman that gets through all the stuff for those of you that have never seen it as well. That's the thing that has to be taken into consideration here. I can't in good conscience suggest the second movie in a trilogy as the foundational film because that's
might.
Yeah, I know you might, but in my mind that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. No,
Sibner,
Ryan's leading the discussion, not me.
Sibner, this is kind of the point. We are.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We want to gatekeep, right? Isn't that the point of this? I'm just kidding. Oh, wait, is this a gatekeeping show?
The point is to not gatekeep.
I know. That's
even
yes.
If we haven't watched all of them. Like I haven't seen any of the DCEU ones, but I have a feeling those weren't going to be answers for any of these.
What if they were though?
Never know.
Ah, see? Yeah, I get it. I mean, look, I understand I understand that sentiment, and I don't think that you have an inappropriate opinion saying you guys are talking about this and you've never seen Returns. I literally just explained to you, I'm watching Returns later this year because someone asked me to watch it for a month for them. So let me reiterate. At the end of the day, if I've never seen Batman Returns, that's fine. Because at the end of the day, I love Batman 1989. It doesn't detract from my love of that movie. And at the same time, to answer the question you asked, Batman 1989 does the origin story. It does the villain of Batman that everybody knows. Look, I'm not going to say done the best because I think Heath Ledger is the best version of the Joker. But Jack Nicholson's amazing in that movie for what is needed for that movie. The tone of that movie is needed to be a Jack Nicholson type. Because again, like it's a very much an elevated tone and it's a comic book brought to life. I mean, that's the thing that I love about the movie is that it's a comic book brought to life and you can see that on the screen. So yeah, I love Batman 1989. That's my choice here.
Before I get into Batman 1989, I do want to say that when you watch Batman Returns, I'm very curious to see what you think because it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It's got honestly like what they do with Michelle Pfeiffer is amazing in that movie. Some of the way that it's Tim Burton, so he knows how to capture people in a way that feels larger than life, obviously.
Right. Oh yeah,
with everything that he's done. So yeah, I think you'll really like it. I think that you have a good pick, and I couldn't really argue with it. I think it is a very still beloved title in the entire franchise. I think it's one that a lot of people, base their love on this character of simply from this movie. I think it's a great title. My pick, I've already alluded to it. I will say I think The Dark Knight is the best one for somebody to watch first. And it's interesting to make that as a choice because it is the second and it's not an origin story, and I get that. But my argument against that is I think the Batman origin is just kind of zeitgeist knowledge at this point. Like everybody
at this point though.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing is
I know, but
future generations.
Right, exactly. Like to your point though, like it's a fair answer because like you said, it's like, look, it's the same fucking thing with Spider-Man. They don't have to show the Spider-Man origin story anymore, guys. Like we're good. Unless you're doing like Miles Morales or Spider-Man 2099. Yeah, exactly. But I only say I say it covers the origin of Batman. I think it covers it in the most straightforward, obvious way. I mean, to your point, 2022's Batman doesn't do it either.
Yeah, you're right. It is something that people are, it's divisive. I totally get that. Sibner says, are we talking best film or for someone not knowledgeable to understand the story? If you don't do the origin for that person, they won't get it. And that's why I just defended that. First off, we're not answering what is the best film or for someone not knowledgeable to understand the story here, because the origin is literally just like public knowledge at this point.
Well, part of it is making it the most approachable thing. That is what we're getting at. And honestly, Sibner, what you'll realize very quickly is our second answer is often our favorite thing. That's kind of, or second favorite.
The second answer is usually the most interesting part of the conversation. So
Yeah,
we will be
totally.
discussing that one soon. The Dark Knight. I don't want to say too much about it because I know it's something that is overly discussed. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think it's a very great movie. I think that Heath Ledger is probably the best visage of a villain that we're ever going to see on screen for a Batman story. Probably. I think it's great that we also get probably the best version of Two-Face in any of these movies. Unless we start talking about the animated, which is very different, of course.
You like him better than Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah, I do.
I think Tommy Lee Jones fits the tone of Batman Forever just fine.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely fits.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly find the Dark Knight's usage of Two-Face to be kind of an afterthought. Me personally. But I get where you're coming from. I totally get it. Like, The Dark Knight is a movie that I have a very weird history with. That being, I loved it when it came out, and since then, it has depreciated in value to the point where I don't even want to watch it anymore. Like, Heath Ledger's great, and that's kind of where I leave it. Like, Sibner and I think, are on the same page. Because I get it. Like, Dark Knight, I understand its appeal. I understand why people like it. Like I said, I loved it when it came out. I literally went and saw it opening night at midnight with my friends. I get it. Like, a lot of us got swept up in the excitement of Batman. And that was a big deal, especially for what it was being advertised as, the fact that it was Heath Ledger. But yeah, like, for me, Dark Knight, I mean, you said it best. Like, Chris Nolan had no right being around this franchise. And you know what? They're great movies, but are they great Batman movies? That's the question I always put to anybody. Is like, they're great movies. Well made, well shot, whatever. But is The Dark Knight a good movie in terms of what the genre it's in is? I mean, I don't know. It's going to vary from person to person. The Dark Knight for me is a movie, like I said, loved it when it came out. It's kind of depreciated a little bit since, but I totally understand why people like it because it is a good, well-made movie and has a great performance at the center of it with Heath Ledger.
I do think The Dark Knight is a lot more than Heath Ledger. I want to point out a couple other small things. I think that this movie is paced very, very well. It kind of goes and doesn't really slow down, and there are some of these other entries. There are some meandering points in some of them. And to be quite honest, I think that's my biggest problem with the other two Nolan films. I think Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises have some dull periods that are really difficult to overlook completely.
Where would you rank them? Those three?
Just those three? I would probably say The Dark Knight is better than Batman Begins is better than Dark Knight Rises.
So 2, 1, 3.
2, 1, 3. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to defend that third movie. And to Sibner's point, the second movie has a lot of weird stuff that people forget. Like the whole Tokyo side plot. The climax of that movie is... Like, Chris Nolan doesn't know how to shoot a climax of a movie like this, right? Like, that's what we found out with these movies is he has no idea how to film action, so he just fucking doesn't. Is that what it is? Like, that... Dark Knight Rises climax is pretty bad. Right? Like, Tom Hardy's... The whole thing with Bane and the way Bane is treated is just...
It's real bad. Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, like, The Dark Knight is the same. It just kind of gets away with it. Like, it just kind of gets away with it. Because it's a good movie. Dark Knight Rises is not a great movie.
I think The Dark Knight has just a far better script. That's the biggest thing, right?
Sure, I agree with you there. And I actually have a soft spot for Batman Begins, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff with the boats and the sonar spy stuff is just like, it's a slog. It's
the boat scene is amazing.
In anything but Batman.
I disagree fully.
I know, but that's why you picked it. It's my point. Like, we just have two different minds here of what we're wanting from this kind of movie.
Well, and we do have some questions about like what this first question is. So I do want to explain again for Sibner and for everybody watching that this is not about best movie or anything. What we got to do is put our mindset into somebody who's never seen any of these. And so one of the reasons I picked The Dark Knight is because it kind of kicked off this modern mentality that we have about comic book movies. And so that's why I think right now it is the most approachable because of Nolan is why we have these super dark, everything has to be gritty, fucking dark ass comic book, no happiness movies.
Can I say though, and we talked about this pre-recording, so this is a little bit of a not pre-rehearsed, but I'm actually going to counterpoint there to that because I really detest what Chris Nolan did for big budget movies for like a decade, which was everything had to be grim, dark, and serious.
Oh yeah,
including fucking James Bond. Of all the goddamn things in the world, you turned James Bond grim, dark, and serious. I mean, that's fine. I like Daniel Craig, but those James Bond movies, similarly to these Batman movies, the Nolan ones, you take the James Bond name out of it, it could be anybody, really. Batman's a little different because you have a guy dressed up like a bat. I mean, look, I would put The Dark Knight in my top 5 Batman movies, but like, okay, so what, right? Like,
right.
I'm with you. Like, I think either of our entry points are a good one if you have different expectations. And yes, Casino Royale is a damn near perfect movie, but it's the exception that proves the rule. Because we all know how good Spectre is, right?
I don't.
I know you don't. You've made it a life choice to stay away from James Bond movies. We'll never see a James Bond film Foundations. I guess it'll be led by me primarily, I'm assuming. Because have you seen any James Bond movies?
I have, and I already said we should, but we should break it out into an episode for each actor.
Oh yeah, Timothy Dalton, 2 movies.
Okay, maybe we throw that in with something else.
Yeah, George Lazenby, 1 movie.
So again, the way that we have to approach this first question always is not just like what do we think is great or what do we think whatever. It's more about like approaching it for other people who have not seen any of these. So this one, agreed. I think that Nolan did kind of screw up here. That it's this awkward ass let me make these super dark movies that he probably shouldn't have been making to begin with. But he changed modern cinema. There's no doubt about that. The way that he made these movies has changed the way that the mainstream looks at these films. And so somebody out there that's somehow never seen a Batman movie, I think you're very likely to enjoy The Dark Knight because you've probably been catered to with these new style films over the last, how long has it been since The Dark Knight? 16 years? Like there's
since The Dark Knight, since Batman Begins, it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, that's insane.
Fucking nuts. It's 20 years next year.
So, yeah, I think that The Dark Knight is a great first entry. You see some incredible conversations in this movie. I think that the tension through some of those conversations is really well done. I like The Dark Knight. It's not my favorite Batman movie, but I do think it's the best entry point. But again, as Chris and I talked about, I think the second question usually leads to our best discussion. So, Chris, could you recommend a lesser-known film within our topic? And usually this is like, hey, this probably wouldn't be great as a first-time watch into our topic, but maybe one that if somebody were to watch it first, it may even turn them away from the rest of it. So, Chris, what is your choice for question 2?
I'm not going to be uncontroversial here. I mean, this is a pretty uncontroversial pick. I'm going to go with The Batman from 2022. I mean, I can completely understand, and I have talked to a lot of people. It took me up until this year to watch it. It's 2 years now. Because the amount of people I had heard tell me it was boring and long and was, I mean, it was an arm's length of people. Tons of people told me how boring it was. And I was like, okay, maybe it is. I'm not going to put it in my top list of things to watch. Watched it this year, and my God, I mean, Robert Pattinson, look, I've been a Robert Pattinson defender for a while. When they were like, he's going to be cast as Batman, I was like, hell yeah. I know people are like, it's the guy from Twilight. It's like, Kristen Stewart was in that movie too, and she's a great actress. And those, like, you can't blame Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart for wanting to have a nest egg for the rest of their lives. So, and I understand the Mask of the Phantasm being an answer here that a lot of people would probably go with. And I'm not saying I don't like the Mask of the Phantasm. It's just, I think the Batman builds on what you were talking about with The Dark Knight, which is taking it seriously, but then pulling it back into the idea of he's a detective. Because that's the thing about the Batman from 2022. He's a detective. It's like the first time in live action Batman movies, he has actually felt like a detective within the scope of the movie. And what the movie's asking of him is to be a detective. It's essentially Batman versus the Zodiac Killer in a lot of ways. Like that's kind of where that movie is drawing from. It's very Seven adjacent. So that's why I wouldn't suggest it as anyone's first thing, because A, it is a very long movie. It's almost 3 hours long, which I know some people will bristle at. I don't, you don't. But at the end of the day, I think Pattinson makes a case for being Batman for a lot more people than anybody else has up until this point, because he makes the character his own, and he also does a good Bruce Wayne that we haven't really seen that kind of Bruce Wayne either. So that's the other thing we haven't really talked about. Some actors play a better Bruce Wayne than they do Batman. I think Christian Bale's better Bruce Wayne than he is Batman. I think that voice thing, the Rachel, where is she? Oh my Lord. I mean, it's funny. I know it's not supposed to be funny, but it's kind of goof. It's campy unintentionally. And the Batman 2022 has some of those lighter moments, but has a great cast, has Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis,
and
Robert
it's actually
Pattinson.
Jeffrey Wright this time.
Yeah, Paul Dano. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but Jesus.
Colin Farrell.
Right. Well, so many people I have talked to didn't know it was Colin Farrell, which is just like the greatest thing about that makeup, is that he is under it but not lost in it.
Yeah. So I was actually going to ask this question after my answer for the second question, but may as well get over here now because you just brought it up. What is your favorite Batman and what is your favorite Bruce Wayne? Like, who's your favorite actor playing Batman? Who's your favorite actor playing Bruce Wayne?
My favorite, I would say my favorite Batman is Robert Pattinson's Batman, and my favorite Bruce Wayne is
wow.
See, I don't think Christian Bale is not turning it up. I think Christian Bale's pretty great as Bruce Wayne. But I mean, there is that line from Keaton. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And that's fucking Bruce Wayne. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Michael Keaton for Bruce Wayne. But I don't think Val Kilmer is a bad choice either, cuz Val Kilmer is really good. Like, that's the thing. Frankly, Batman Forever doesn't get enough love. We haven't talked about it enough. It's a movie that, I don't know, it's so 90s it hurts. It's got Kiss from a Rose by Seal in it, for fuck's sake. But man, I think for the most part, there's not any really bad Batman movies. And yes, I have seen Batman Dead End. I believe Batman Dead End is that the fan film that has the xenomorph in it at the end? Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember seeing it at Comic-Cons on TVs that had VHS players built into them. People were trying to sell bootleg VHSs of the short film. If that's the right thing, Stan, tell me if I'm wrong. But look, I don't think there's any wrong answer here. I don't think anybody couldn't. I think, well, in the comments,
you could say George Clooney, I guess.
I don't think George Clooney's. I don't think George Clooney's. Again, I think Clooney is the Batman for some people, to the point that they brought him back. So, look, frankly, I don't think there's an indefensible answer other than Ben Affleck. Sorry. But I don't think anybody's going to defend Batman versus Superman, Justice League, or any. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to outright be like, Ben Affleck's my Batman. Like,
right.
I've never heard anybody say that. Maybe I'm nuts, but maybe that person's going to comment and tell us. But that's not something I've heard a lot of people go out on a limb for. But everybody else, most every other Batman gets a defense from somebody as their favorite.
So the way I have to answer this, first of all, is I have to put the qualifier that I can only talk about live action. Because if we're talking about animated, Kevin Conroy will be Batman until the day I die.
Right. Like, that's not even fair. It's like saying who's the best Joker. It's Mark fucking Hamill. Duh.
Right.
Like,
but I'm kind of surprised that you said Pattinson. That is also my pick for Batman. I think he is a very great Batman. And I think I'm mostly impressed, obviously, with the detective side. We've already talked about that a bit. But one of the other things that is a big deal for me is they show that he is, like, discovering this side of him. He fucks up. He's not somebody that is perfect. And they never would have allowed George Clooney to mess up and hit a bridge or something like that. It just would not have been possible. I do admit, I was really close to saying Michael Keaton as well for this, but I do think that I'm going to go with Christian Bale. I think he's a really great, like very suave type of Bruce Wayne, which we needed. And the bigger thing is he is the way that he is so dedicated to that role in those 3 movies. I love absolutely, and he, you know, all in with the way that he works out and he's logical and he thinks smart and all of that. I just don't think he's a very good Batman. I really don't love his Batman at all.
Because it was never about Batman for Chris Nolan. That's the problem. Right. Like, it just doesn't. Chris Nolan wasn't interested in making a Batman movie. He was interested in deconstructing the superhero myth, and they were just like, "Hey, you Batman." It's like, okay, so yeah. I mean, Affleck's Batman is the most physically imposing Batman because he like the physicality that Ben Affleck's Batman brings in not Justice League, but Batman versus Superman. There's that scene in the warehouse that's pretty great. Like, I'll concede that, but. Man, Ben Affleck just couldn't seem less fucking interested the longer those movies go on, to the point where he himself was like, I don't fucking care. I don't want to keep doing this. Like, which is why they literally brought somebody else in to end the DCEU's version of Batman. They literally went, hey, Michael Keaton, right? Because here's the thing you didn't mention. The Flash is technically a Batman movie, too. Michael Keaton Batman. I don't know how many of y'all have seen The Flash. There's some CGI in that movie that is, wow. There's like a Zoetrope scene that they keep using over and over, and I was convinced that was previs. Like, it's not previs though. That is the way the film was released and seen. Yeah, it's crazy to me. But yeah, The Flash is not going to show up here other than in passing. Hot pile of caca. Yeah, I mean, look, they brought Michael Keaton back, but to what end, I guess?
Right. Well, to end the DCEU, basically.
Right. Yeah, and again, like they tried to shoehorn a Batman movie into a Flash movie. Guess you guys have a lot of faith in your Flash movie then, huh? Like, it's so bizarre.
So to finish up what started as an answer to the second question for you for a long time ago, I will say this was very close to being my answer as well. I truly loved the 2022 Batman. I genuinely a 5-star film for me. I appreciate one of the other big things. I guess, you know, we've talked about him screwing up. We've talked about his detective work. I love the way they started this film too. The fact that criminals are actually scared of the nighttime, right? And that's a huge part of the lore of Batman. People are actually afraid to be out when his light is in the sky. Like that's a big deal. And they really nailed it for that movie. I truly loved the way that they took Colin Farrell's character and made it this larger than life being. I think the stuff they did with Paul Dano was great. The only thing I didn't love, I think this movie has 2 or 3 different endings, and none of them are good. None of the endings for this movie are well thought out. None of them come together. I feel like they probably should have melded all 2.5 of them together to find something sort of cohesive. But other than that, I think this is a pretty great movie. I do understand the length being a problem, and that's partially because of the third act that is like 2.5 acts long just for that third act.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, we already talked about Dark Knight and the way that movie ends. The Batman 2022 has a similar ending problem of just like, what do we do here? I'm curious to see what the next one is, because I hope they like what Batman movie doesn't have a kind of a problematic third act? The original Batman 89 is pretty great.
It's pretty great. Yeah.
Again, Batman Returns, can't speak to that. Everything else kind of, I mean, live action, their third acts are kind of all over the place. I mean,
yeah, and Stan says the length is no problem for me. The length itself is not the problem for me. It's the fact that I don't feel like they stick the landing. You got to justify that length, and I think that they let that go ever so slightly with the fake out ending that they have there.
And not everything needs to be Return to the King, like 3 endings for fuck's sake. Like,
so the second question, my pick for this one. Funny enough, I didn't even mean to do this. I meant to read out all of the titles, and I skipped over one, and it's the one that I'm picking for this one.
I was about to say, you didn't mention the one that I was like, this is going to be his pick. You didn't mention it.
My pick for like an underseen one that it would be weird to watch as your first entry into all this. I got to show some love right now for the Lego Batman. This movie is so much better than it has any right to be. I believe it was like 2 years ago on one of the streams with Flip on this channel, I was discussing all of the ranked Batman movies, and this was like number 5 on my list of all of the Batman movies. This movie's incredible. The comedy is great. The way that the set design is, because it's all Legos, it's filmed in a lot of scenes. No. I never said animated was off limits. No. I said to answer who was the best Batman, that means I would have to say animated is off limits. Lego Batman is up there as one of the greats by far. This movie, it's filmed in a way that gives me like Batman the Animated Series vibes, and the voice acting is incredible. But the biggest thing, like, if you are a fan of Batman, this movie is going to pay off in spades because there's references to everything in this movie. You're going to get so many like never talked about before villains discussed. You're going to get all of the costumes made fun of. You're going to get mention of bat nipples. You're going to get like everything under the sun is a part
Bat
of
credit
this movie.
card, condiment,
Yeah, it's amazing.
condiment king, all the things. Kite man, everything.
It's so well made and thought out, and you can tell like this is one of those movies that could have been very patronizing, but instead it was very obviously just made by people who loved Batman to death and grew up with it. And like, yeah, the first Lego movie is great. This, I think, is by far the best Lego movie that they've made. Like, hands down, head and shoulders above any of them by far. But yeah, I do think because of those references and all of those other jokes that you're not going to understand, this would be a pretty poor choice to watch as your first foray into Batman, because you got to understand all of those other references to really appreciate this one. If you've never seen it and you've seen many other Batman movies, go check out Lego Batman. I don't know if, you know, we got many people watching that don't check out animated stuff because it's for kids or whatever. I know there's a lot of people on like film Twitter that think like that. The Lego Batman movie is a freaking amazing movie. Like, this movie is underseen and should be high up on everybody's list because it is a damn near masterpiece.
And produced by Lord and Miller. So Lord and Miller are two of my favorite filmmakers right now because they understand the assignment every time they're brought on. I mean, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, for fuck's sake. I mean, you mentioned the Lego movie. The Lego movie's no slouch of its own.
Yeah, it's
the
great.
Lego Batman movie doesn't exist without the Lego movie. Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the Lego movie. I haven't seen the Lego Batman movie enough. I did see it in theaters when it came out. And I mean, look, Will Arnett as Batman is inspired casting. I mean, obviously he was in the Lego movie as Batman, but the fact that they kept it and continued to roll with it is just... And then Galifianakis, and I think my favorite character in the movie is Kate Micucci as Clayface, which is the funniest casting in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Kate Micucci, everybody.
This thing, again, if you like start to look at all of the actors that are in this, you start to find some that are really funny. I mean, even like freaking Michael Cera as Robin is really great. It is a very inspired casting because his deadpan, like, stupid voice that people hate from everything else because he's always the same character really works as Robin in this movie.
And I'm honestly surprised we never got Ralph Fiennes cast as Alfred, but this makes up for it.
Yeah.
You could see, I mean, honestly, it's either Andy Serkis or Ralph Fiennes for Batman 2022, right? Like, you have those two choices, as far as I'm concerned. They went with Andy Serkis, but Ralph Fiennes would have been just as great of a choice and would have worked. I mean, he's amazing in Lego Batman. It's pitch perfect casting, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of names in this. Mariah Carey is in it. Ellie Kemper's in this. Jenny Slate, Channing Tatum, Adam Devine. Just tons and tons of people. It's a riot start to finish. One of my favorites completely from this franchise. But now, like, this next question I feel like is going to go into so many different directions. Our third question always, what is the biggest impact that our topic has had on pop culture? Now, again, if you have not listened to Film Foundations before, what we mean by this is it doesn't have to be a certain film. It can be something philosophical. It can be something like inspiring future filmmakers to do X. It can be increasing awareness on X. It can be a film. It can say, the Dark Knight changed comic book movies for all of the future. Obviously, this is a very subjective question, but it's literally all about just interesting conversation. So, what do you think is the biggest pop culture impact from all of Batman?
I want to know where all these people are doing X and how we can get in on that. Because we're just like, on X. It's like, whoa, man, everybody's doing X. That's, and in the comments, they're already getting to it. Like, this is a massive beast to wrangle here.
Yeah.
This is, to get to this point in this conversation is going to be difficult to answer because, like you've already mentioned, like, this is all encompassing in a lot of ways. Look, Superman is like, that's in a lot of ways, like, that is where the superhero genre got really elevated in terms of the big budget and the visibility. But I'm pretty sure, as far as I can tell, I'm concerned, as far as I would make this argument, Batman is like the superhero. He's the one that's been evergreen forever. We've had Batman in the 80s, we've had him in the 90s, we've had him in the 2000s, we've had him in the 2010s. The superhero genre is to thank because of the success of Batman. Everything comes from Batman. Literally, the MCU, the DCEU, all of it comes from the initial success of the Batman TV show, the continued success of the Batman series as it went on. The Batman movies have never not been profitable for the most part. They took a break from Batman and Robin because Batman and Robin was very poorly received, but it made back its budget. It made back its money. It was laughed out of the building because here's the thing, and this is the thing I kind of alluded to before. If you like Batman 1966, you know what you're going to love? Batman and Robin. You know why? Because Batman and Robin is pretty much just Batman 66 in 97. It's very campy. It's very over the top. And, again, like, Batman and Superman are kind of 1A and 1B in terms of our country's, like, big superheroes that had a big presence before the superhero time, the 2008 further. So, in a lot of ways, it's hard to answer this question without bringing up, like I did, bringing up Superman and the Superman movies, but Batman is, in a lot of ways, like, the superhero film and the superhero film series. Like, it's not that I don't see a lot of people arguing about it, but I don't see a lot of people arguing about who's their favorite Superman. Right. But we've already had a huge amount of discussion here between us and the audience about favorite Batman and favorite Bruce Wayne. Like, maybe we could do an episode in the future on Superman. It's not something I'm imminently super well versed on. I've seen enough, but I haven't seen all of it. So again, Christopher Reeves is amazing, but so is Adam West as Batman. So is, Michael Keaton. I think that the superhero genre as a whole has been one of those genres that really has built on top of itself in a way that, like, a lot of genres haven't. Westerns aren't a thing the way they used to be. Musicals aren't a thing the way they used to be. Superhero movies 40 years from now may be a long thing of the past that people are like, remember when superhero movies were in? That may be a thing because I'm sure people in the 50s and 60s couldn't fathom big budget musicals not continuing to be made into the 70s and 80s, but yet they really weren't the way they were before. So I think it is Batman and Superman in general have been the litmus test of where we're going with superhero stuff and the success of it. I remember the hype around The Dark Knight. It was insane. Yep. The ARG game that they had with it. All of the publicity that they did for it. This is the same time around, like, Cloverfield, when they're doing, like, ARG interactive stuff to, like, go find something in the real world that somebody planted. Like, that was The Dark Knight. So,
Arkham Asylum games that came after that.
Oh, yeah, Jesus Christ. That's, honestly, that's the other thing. The video games alone, like, that in and of itself kind of helps move the needle. But, again, like, I prefer my Batman as a detective, but Batman's been a superhero a lot of the time. So that's why my answer was the Batman 2022. So in a lot of ways, we're just now at the point where Batman's being treated the way I personally appreciate the character to be treated. But he has been a full-fledged world-saving superhero in most of his movies, which I think speaks to the idea of what the expectation was for these kinds of movies the further we get away from something that's kind of contained like Batman 1989. Like Batman 1989 is a contained thing. There's no other things going on anywhere else. There's no hints at fucking future sequels or any of that shit.
And there's no competition either. That was the other
thing. Right. And that's the other thing. Batman 89 exists very much in a vacuum in terms of the quality of that kind of movie being made, in terms of the quality at the time of that movie being made. But Batman is he is evergreen. He has always been around since the day I was born. Batman's been around. Batman will probably be around the day that I die and further on into the future. He is quintessentially the American superhero.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm with Sibner. Like, I genuinely think whatever Reeves comes up with next is going to be the Batman movie. Like, I genuinely think that he has a better wrangle on this than anybody else has, other than not Michael Keaton, but Tim Burton. But I mean, Batman is he's been ever present. And so I think, what is his impact on pop culture? He has been part of the pop culture discussion forever. It's hard to avoid it. So again, it's hard to really pin any one thing down because this time, unlike some of the other episodes we've done, there are obvious answers on the other things we've done. There is way too much here to give just one singular answer.
Man, a few things here. So I agree with you. Obviously, this is a big deal. But the way that I wanted to talk about this was twofold. I know that I alluded earlier to superhero movies get dark and gritty because of Christopher Nolan, and you can look at that as a good or a bad thing. You're not necessarily wrong. Depends on your preference for these things. That's a very obvious answer because it's affected all of the films since 2008. That's been a big deal. But sadly, I kind of want to reach through the screen and punch Sibner in the face because I thought I was going to have a pretty unique answer. My answer is I think the fact that The Dark Knight and it's kind of an open secret that The Dark Knight and WALL-E not getting nominated for Best Picture is what led to the Oscars expanding into 10 films being nominated for Best Picture. And I can't imagine what smaller films since 2008 never would have been given the appreciation and outward pop culture understanding of their existence if it weren't for them being nominated for Best Picture. And without them expanding to 10, gosh, some of these like from last year, I can't imagine the Past Lives would not have been in the top 5. I almost guarantee it. And that movie, I see it as a masterpiece. So I think the way that we're looking at these movies as a whole and comparing them is a big deal because the Oscars, no matter what, no matter how much you love award shows or not, and Sibner, I was obviously kidding. You just took my answer. It's one of those things where the appreciation level for some of these, it is literally an honor just to get nominated. And that changes the trajectory of a film for the rest of film history. Without some of these, it was one of my favorite movies last year, so I'm going to harp on it. But without Past Lives being nominated for Best Picture, I could see Past Lives being completely forgotten in 5 years by most people. But because it was nominated for Best Picture, it is something that Celine Song is going to be able to look back on and put on a resume. And every movie that she comes out, Celine Song previously Best Picture nominated, Best Picture Film Director. That's a big deal. It's one of those things that can carry literally a director's entire career, an actor's entire career, an editor's entire career, a producer's entire career. It can set somebody onto a film tangent that will allow them to create the next Gone with the Wind or masterpiece or whatever you want to say. There are so many things that come from that, and to literally double the number of titles. I mean, all props to Dark Knight and WALL-E for making them go, well, maybe we should expand this a little bit. I think that's a big deal.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I will say, though, to your point, and probably to the detriment of it, though, yes, they've expanded it to 10, but have they really ever gone outside of 5 movies to look at what's going to win?
I mean,
It's the problem, right? Like that's the problem because it's like all the they're just like, well, Avatar 2. Like, what are you on drugs? Like it's just you know what I mean?
Disagree with that. No,
I know. I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, like elevating something is great, but at the same time, Cuba Gooding Jr. won an Academy Award and it didn't do shit for his career. There are exceptions that prove the rule sometimes.
I mean,
it's just I get
asshole. That's why that.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but okay. I mean, fair. Wow, gonna drag the good name of Cuba Gooding Jr. on this show, sir? How dare you? I'm just saying again. In a lot of ways, yes, I appreciate that they expanded it, but it feels like a little bit of a hollow victory. You know what I mean? Because, like, to Sibner's point, it should have been directors. If they're going to expand movies, they need to expand directors. Then they need to expand actors. Then they need to expand everything. Because where do you stop? Where do you stop? That's the question. They expanded the movies to 10. Okay. But there's really only, like, 5 movies that are really ever considered to win. And so at that point, but come on, man. Avatar was... It is, though. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because of how the Academy is built. There's literally thousands of people that are not even connected other than they're standing in the Academy across the country. There are so many people that will... Yes, Cuba could have won for Rat Race.
Yes. Boy, Rat Race came up twice today. Jesus Christ. Organically, of all things.
The way that I will prove that this is incorrect in my mind, the way that you're describing it, is because of the Barbie problem from last year. Like Greta Gerwig not getting nominated and Margot Robbie not getting nominated was literally only because the taste of thousands of parts of the Academy across the country are so eclectic. It's not just 5, because so many of those people have different tastes that are voting for different things. No, I do think that literally all 10 stand an actual chance, because all it takes is for a portion of that to have just a slight majority of a different type of taste.
And yet, is anyone surprised when the things win, though? That's my point.
I mean,
Oppenheimer was going to win, and it did.
This is not the year to discuss.
Oh, okay. I mean, fair though.
Things like Parasite, that is unprecedented. That's the type of thing that.
But I think Parasite would have gotten nominated anyways.
Oh, like it. Even with 10, people were like, "Whoa, this got nominated." I mean, America's like especially with the Academy, they're historically fairly racist.
Well, yeah, but they're not just. But I mean, it's surprising that they nominated Parasite, but they don't nominate films made by POC directors in this fucking country. Like, whoop-de-doo, they nominated someone from another country, but they don't give a shit about people here. I mean, that's the problem with the Academy, right? Is the makeup of the Academy is a bunch of old white folks. Still. No matter how many people you bring in, no matter how many other people are in the pool, there's still those people that have been there forever. And for me, it's a popularity contest. That's the real fucking problem here. I mean, ultimately,
of course it is. That's
but at the end,
but
at the end of the day, like you've said, all it really matters is, your movie gets that little qualifier in front of it, which for a lot of people is important. The nominated for. Yeah. So I think, look, it's the Academies are the Academy Awards are something I really don't like talking about for a whole host of reasons, because the less said about the Academy Awards, the fucking better. Because in a lot of ways, they don't determine the fucking taste of any one of us, especially not people that watch movies, especially people that sit and watch movies every day, like I know everybody in your audience does, like I do and you do. Look, Barbie was a great movie, but Barbie wasn't the best fucking movie last year any more than Oppenheimer was.
And that's why it didn't win. What I'm going to
say... But Oppenheimer won, and it wasn't the best movie of last year either.
What I'm going to say is, I honestly, like, deep down, I think most people that love the Oscars will even say that they're truly important. I think the biggest thing is it's our day as movie lovers to literally come together and have the mainstream love of movies be normal. And that alone is important. I think that's something that we should do.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Look, this is subjective. That's the problem here. We are not talking objectively anymore. We are speaking purely subjectively. These are our opinions. This is not the kind of discussion we often get into on this show, which is very funny on top of everything else. This is probably the most contentious it's ever been between the two of us.
I don't think it's contentious. I think it's just a matter of seeing it differently. I think that The expanding it to 10, I think it should go to directors as well, because they are literally the one creating the movie. But I don't think there's any like, we should expand every best actor to 10. Like, I don't think that's something.
Why not?
Is a question, because it would go forever. That's the biggest thing. And
I mean, wouldn't they love that though?
I mean, some people would, for sure.
Look, at the end of the day, like I said, the less said about the Oscars, the better for me, because they don't determine my favorite movies of a year. They don't determine the things I watch. I listen to my friends who watch movies, and I watch movies based on their suggestions. But here's the thing: to your point, that's not me. That's not you. That's not who these are for.
Right.
And the entire Academy is not racist. It's just the entire Academy is still catching up to the way that the rest of the country's ethnically diverse. That's what the problem is. There's a lag time. There's a lag time, isn't there? I mean, that's what this is.
I'm just laughing because his comment is declaring the entire Academy racist is a bit of a stretch. Nobody declared they were racist. I said historically they have been very racist. Like, it's by definition, the way that they have voted historically has been all white with them.
Oof. Oof. Hey, the Green Book won, everybody. Remember that? Hey, remember that movie? Let's talk about how great the Green Book is and how everybody's watching it. Oh, wait. Nobody fucking is. That's all I'm saying. Just like so many Oscar-winning movies that just flit out into existence and nobody thinks about them. We mentioned Cuba Gooding Jr. What's he up to other than being sued for things? The Academy's a hard thing to wrangle with, because speaking of Batman, you could go as far as to say Batman legitimized comic book movies because it was the first comic book movie to win an Oscar.
Yep.
In terms of acting, I'm sure one of the movies won for special effects or something. Correct me in the comments. But I'm talking about the big awards. And then I would actually go as far as to say Joaquin Phoenix doesn't win the Academy Award for Joker if Heath Ledger didn't win it first. I mean, again, legitimizing superhero movies, how do you do that? You hire Chris Nolan.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that was the intention of hiring Chris Nolan, was to legitimize superhero movies, but that's what it did. It legitimized them as not just superhero movies. They're movies, which again, like, that's stupid in and of itself as far as I'm concerned and kind of pedantic. But when we're talking about these kinds of things, like, so much of this is just out in the public sphere and there's nothing we can do about it anyways.
So let's move on to our last question.
By the way, and everybody bringing up The Blind Side, you guys are a bunch of trolls. But that's my point. Like, you can look, I know that this makes you kind of hot under the collar, but don't forget, not Gone with the Wind. That movie deserved it. Dances with Wolves won over Goodfellas, and so did Kevin Costner for Best Director. Holy moly. And you know what? The Departed winning for Best Film and Best Director, not Martin Scorsese's best film, not his best directed film. They were mea culping for what happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
And yeah, going back to before, the thing with Brokeback Mountain is exactly what I was alluding to. They couldn't give it to the gay cowboy movie. They gave it to the totally safe option.
It's not even a great movie. That's the hard part.
Crash? No.
Yeah.
It's a movie written at a time and a place when things were kind of that way, and it's not like that anymore if it ever was.
Right. All right. So the interesting way that we're going to end this discussion, question 4 is always, what is a cinematic bridge to our topic that we're discussing? So basically, what is something that if you are a listener to this and you've somehow never, ever seen a Batman movie, what is something that might clue you in that you would like these? If you would, liked something else first. It could be another franchise. It could be another film. It could be some filmmakers' films. So, Chris, what is our cinematic bridge to Batman?
I mean, this is like a gimme question, right? Because this is
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like, how do you approach someone and say, you want to watch a Batman movie? What do you like? Like, if you're into action movies, if you're amenable to big, over the top, kind of action movies. Like, if you're into action movies, how have you not seen a Batman movie?
Right.
I wouldn't point you at the Chris Nolan stuff because it's not what you're going to expect. But the Batman, I mean, even Batman versus Superman is kind of a big, dumb action movie. I'm not saying all the Batman movies are dumb, but I'm also not saying that Batman needs to elevate itself to the heights of Stanley Kubrick. I mean, it's fucking Batman. Sometimes I just want it to be Batman. So as far as I'm concerned, like, it kind of speaks for itself. Like, if you're into superhero movies and you've never seen a Batman movie, what are you doing? If you've never seen an action movie, or if you've seen action movies and you like action movies, go check out Batman movies. I mean, this is a hard one because it's just like, Batman, like, what? Either you're in or you're out, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't know how to put this. Like, I have plenty of friends, as I'm sure you do, who are like, I don't watch those MCU movies. And it's like, why? Those are dumb, lowbrow. And I'm like, but they're entertainment. Like, not every movie that comes out has to check every fucking box of highbrow entertainment. So I don't know. I mean, again, like, I would say, like, action movies in general. Maybe you're not resonating with superhero movies. Maybe that's not your thing. If that's not your thing, maybe give The Dark Knight a try because it's the least superhero-y of all of them other than the Batman. But as far as I'm concerned, like, it's just a matter of, are you in or you out? Because Batman is its own, in a lot of ways. Yes, there are a bunch of movies, but they're all of a piece in a way, frankly. They're all very much of the same kind of thing. So that's my answer. What about yours?
I took an easy answer because I didn't want to think too hard on this one. And I went just kind of specific, like the most comparable to Batman. And so I'm just going to throw out there, if you like the Iron Man story and the Iron Man trilogy, I think that you'll probably like the Batman films. It's another superhero without superhero tendencies because he has no powers. He's just a rich guy. It is probably the most like comparable type of story to what you get from many of these Batman movies. It's a guy that's, you know, down on his luck and trying to come back from something and working hard to help people. And yeah, thanks, Sibner. It's an obvious answer, but I think that Iron Man is the most comparable on that front.
I wouldn't say all the Batman movies are man against the world because you got Batman and Robin.
Oh, yeah, clearly not.
Yeah, you got all kinds of stuff. Like, look, the other thing is Batman kind of, like we've already alluded to, is fluid within genres. So that's why I said, like, if you're into a certain kind of thing, you can be pointed more specifically in a certain direction with Batman. If you want campy, we can point you there. If you want serious, we'll point you there. If you want middle of that road, can point you there too. So that's the thing. Not all the comic book movies or comic book character movies are so fluid. They're kind of a thing. Like, I mean, Iron Man's kind of all the thing. Doctor Strange, kind of all the thing. Like, Batman is kind of all over the place, which is what makes Batman a fun character.
The best, I would say. We didn't talk about promo and all the plugging type stuff. Anything you want to shout out before we call it a night, Chris?
WeirdAngWayMedia.com. That's where you can go to hear more of my thoughts on things or me talking with other people about our thoughts on things. That's where you can find the audio version of this show, Film Foundations. And everything else that I work on pretty much can be found there, other than Rankin' on Bond, which is me and Richard Haddam of Richard Haddam's Paranormal Bookshelf. He's also the writer of Under Siege 2 and The Mothman Prophecies, which he wrote with Matt Reeves, which I didn't mention here, but we will never get to talk to Matt Reeves because it's been essentially said to me directly that he doesn't want to do publicity if he doesn't have to, and this is tantamount to that, apparently.
He's above it now.
Yeah, well, or it's just he doesn't want to do it. He's a very private person is what I've been told. But yeah, that's where you can find Rankin' on Bond, which is over at patreon.com/culturecast or patreon.com/projection booth at the $10 level and up. What about you, Ryan?
I'll just shout out the magazine again earlier that we talked about on this show. Check out the Physical Media Advocate. It's available on Amazon. Link in the description below if you want it in a store local to you. And when I say local to you, I mean world freaking wide. Like, this thing is being sold in Canada, Italy, Germany, the UK, Australia. You can get it on all of your local Amazons, but also I can have it on sale in your local shops. If you've got a contact or work at one or friends with somebody that works at one, let me know. I would be happy to talk about supplying wholesale versions of these and get it sold in your shop. There is a lot of people out there that I think would enjoy it, and I would be thrilled to have some assistance. The discussion tonight has been great. I appreciate everybody being a part of this, and I hope that you come back to check out another episode of Film Foundations. Like I said, every Wednesday, it will be available in the video version and the audio version. If you got any suggestions, questions, leave comments everywhere. We want to have a community surrounding this thing. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We'll see you next time. Anything else, Chris?
I enjoyed this immensely. You guys are fun. Not just you, Ryan, but your audience. You guys are fun.
All right, then. On that note, until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this.